Dwight. So, fellas, here we are once again. Hey, James Lindsay ain't quitting, all right? I ain't quitting. He ain't quitting. I ain't quitting. I've been following this turn from the beginning. To prove it, in the description is my playlist of all my James Lindsay videos. We've got James Lindsay and the woke libs have failed with the woke right. They want to dismantle systemic podcasting. That was the first utterance of Podcastistan. James and Jordan Peterson refused to name the woke right. That's when I realized, hey, why are they explicitly talking about this idea, this energy that's out, the spirit that's out there, but they won't name anybody. And on we go. One I highly recommend is Brett Weinstein gave James Lindsay an intervention. All of James Lindsay's fails, he tries to turn into wins. The man is their most precious golem. Normally, a golem needs to rest. James Lindsay doesn't rest. This is odd. What is woke right supposed to mean? Oh, that would really set off James Lindsay. We'll get around to not answering that. It's the only way to answer it, is to not answer it. James Lindsay is sick and tired of having to answer this question he can't answer, yet insists on incessantly talking about, which is one of the reasons I wouldn't even say he's nominated for the Lol Cow Hall of Fame. This is the Michael Jordan, fellas. You're living amongst greatness. We will never, ever have a cow like James Lindsay ever again. Because he sold his soul, what little there was, for the moose. He got everyone's attention about the communists. Everyone else did research about, that's a lot of mooery in there. Gotta ignore a lot of Steens and Bergs and that research. And he is doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down in a way that will never be seen again. Now, of course, he has full institutional backing. So that means he gets what, fellas? Unlimited respawns. Okay? Very similar to the left, like Hassan Piker, for example, which will come up. He has institutional backing, so he gets to say the most contradictory things possible and still gets this crazy institutional backing, and they just sweep for it. Now you, the goy, the non-commie, well, you can't even be incorrect one time. Why, they can be incorrect thousands of times. And so, how do I even... Okay, here's how I'm going to start it. We're going to get this one going a little quicker than normal, okay? If there's some miscommunication about what the woke right is, let me just give you a short overview of that.
And I've called it out. This idea, this woke right terminology that...
You should know James Lindsay made a post on X, which will be his undoing. He says to him, he says, Arby's trying to appeal to the woke right demo. That's curtains for them. Cringe AF. Now, this is amidst him calling people that don't agree with Israel, people that are critical of the moose, woke right. Building upon that methodology.
James Lindsay has been desperately trying to make a thing that Jordan Peterson has desperately been trying to make a thing. It's not a thing. This single Arby's beef and cheddar, or ham and Swiss, has completely destroyed the woke right narrative and the leftoids. Let's look at some of the leftoid tweets. First of all, this is definitely a black joke. That's not a leftoid tweet. You guys really know your customer.
So that was pretty embarrassing. So embarrassing. Now, James Lindsay rarely does this, okay? James Lindsay walked it back, if you can believe it. James Lindsay says on X, actually might have overread the cringe Arby's ad. He's normally over the target. This time he overread it. So they can have that one. The memes I thought it referenced are real and increasingly common, but Arby's probably didn't play into them. Sorry, fam. And then we have his sweepers coming through. Some of these people attacking you don't admit when they make a simple unintentional mistake or misread something. It's just a mistake. He's got Gollum privileges. He just made a mistake. Of course, he's highly antagonistic. But you can never return fire on James Lindsay. One would say he wails out in pain as he strikes you. So there's a lot of sweeping for James Lindsay on that. And then we have a Gollum fight, right? I covered in the last stream, 2 streams ago. Been streaming a lot lately. Chris Rufo getting a tap on the shoulder from Moozy Billionaire to tell him to stop, to ease up on James Lindsay. All Christopher Rufo does is post an Arby's sandwich. I mean, it's a pretty costly mistake he made. James's retort, of course, is that's a big Montana, like the state where Chris brought me out a few years ago. For a discussion on how to fight against woke and argued vigorously with the group that we shouldn't go after, trans or gender ideology. So yeah, Arby's. So now he's trying to go, Chris, dude, come on, man. Don't post a sandwich at me like that. And of course, and then we have Sue. There's Moozy. There's Moozy. And so a lot of comments are like, bro, you messed up. He's making fun of you. Now, of course, we got some fellas posting on this Chris Rufo post. Rubbing salt on the wound because he's been so antagonistic about this mythical, ethereal spirit of the woke right. And then, of course, we have the James Lindsayite sweepers going, I'm disappointed. Instead of standing against all the evil Lindsay has been exposing, you're choosing to join in the mocking. I called the Arby's sandwich woke right. Deserving of criticism, I would say. And then here we have Moozy going, do other things. This is misguided. Now, of course, when is this? This was on May 15th, 2025. Of course, James Lindsay then initiates a conflict with Chris Rufo. Few months later, where Chris Rufo talks about the era of cancellation is officially over, and then talks about canceling a woman that is talking about hating all white men, right? Now, James Lindsay initiates this conflict, and of course, when I search for Susie, nothing comes up. James Lindsay is the ultimate Gollum. Moving along, just to bring people up to speed. There was a list made of all the people James Lindsay has called woke right. Now, we can't criticize James Lindsay for this, but of course, he says he is, as always, correct. So he stands by all of the random people he's called woke right.
That's what woke right
Mary
means.
Morgan works for my company and is a pop culture commentator, and James Lindsay called her woke right.
Yeah, that's incorrect.
Half of this is incorrect.
Oh, I agree.
I
can
am
see
warning you right now, the man's MO is to infiltrate groups, convince them to say dumb things.
Yeah.
And if you are blind to the fact that he is poisoning.
Right. So this is just a James Lindsay hate boner, calling him out on his obvious lol cowery. Let's not forget that he called libertarian Dave Smith woke right, where Dave says, the term woke right has always been nothing more than a smear against right-wingers who don't support forever wars in Israel. That's it. When we have Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, repeating the woke rhetoric. And so James Lindsay says, clown nose on is still gaslighting that no one has ever defined woke right. Dave says, oh, you've defined it. Your definition is just incredibly stupid. That's why I challenged you to a debate and you wisely ran away. You've blown your entire reputation on this nonsense that you are incapable of defending. And so what does the Hall of Fame Michael Jordan lolcow do? He says, I've blown my reputation with awful people. Oh no, what a blessing, man. You don't get it. You can't begin to get it. The ultimate knower, some would say the ultimate glower. Okay? We got a lot to cover, fellas. What are the comments like on this conversation with Jeremy Boring? Let's look at them. Let's see if they disappoint. Let's see the kinds of people that are supporting James Lindsay. I thought James was wrong about the woke right when he first started talking about it. I knew there were a few radicals like Nick Fuentes, but I didn't think the woke right would gain much power, and I didn't think it would impact MAGA. Time has proven James to be correct. You gotta love it. Now, of course, just like Hassan Piker, when James Lindsay is going to be talking to a more broad audience, he's going to be much softer, kind of walk things back, kind of hedge his bets. But of course, through text, James Lindsay is right again. I knew James Lindsay was right about the woke right, trademark, from the very beginning. And in time, it's been gratifying to see others realize it as well. Thank you for keeping an open mind. Of course, your open mind, just like with the left, is only when you agree with them. Moving along, there are many voices that I think are good and important voices, but I never feel more white-pilled than after listening to James Lindsay. He brings so much clarity to the issues of the day that I always walk away feeling armed with necessary tools to identify and fight this in my day-to-day life. Nothing specific, nothing referring to what was said. If you look at my comments, if you look at comments for Ardy and Fist, is specifically referencing things that we said. Wow, I've seen James Lindsay in disputes on Twitter before, so now this person's posing as like, I've only seen him online. Never knew he had this level of intellectual thought and a positive vision. I'll definitely be checking out his website now. I've seen the ACP, American Communist Party, people do this. Like when Eddie Liger-Smith talked to Jake Shields, they'll have plants in there going, hey, I don't know who this Eddie guy is, but he's making a lot of sense right now. I've been saying for over a year now, by the time they realize James was right about everything, it'll be too late. Are they real? I don't know. It's real to me, damn it. Lindsay has helped me keeping my eyes open. Keeping your eyes open? What, were you sleeping?
Wake up. Woke.
Right. Keeping your eyes open? Wouldn't want to close those eyes, would you? You might fall asleep. Then you have to wake back up. I believe this was an important conversation. Jeremy was good at interviewing and also pushing back. Yeah, wait until you catch this pushback. James is probably one of the most important voices of... I can't read it. I can't read the rest of it. Sorry that person put a lot of thought and time into that one. Too long, didn't read. James Lindsay has been a lighthouse. Oh, the analogies, fellas. Oh, Justin, wait until you see the analogies that we're going to be encountering. James Lindsay has been a lighthouse in the storm of the last 8 years or so. Great conversation. Everything he said was going to happen has happened. Very descriptive comments in support of James Lindsay. I mean, this is undeniable that he's right all the time. I thought James Lindsay was wrong about the woke right when he first started talking about it. I knew there were a few radicals like Nick Fuentes, but I didn't think the woke right would gain much power, and I didn't think it would impact MAGA. Time has proven James to be correct. Really, really supporting their boy over here. This was an incredible talk, and I'm not one of James Lindsay's biggest fans. Whoa, This person had their mind changed. They were persuaded through this talk. I like most of the people he can't stand. I like people he doesn't like, and I still agree with him. Totally organic. I also find that many people I watch in interviews like this are completely different people with who they are on social media. Yeah. That's a real opinion. I even like the people he doesn't like, and I like them now. Few people have been vindicated as much as James Lindsay. Fellas, there's no time to waste. James Lindsay is going to talk to Jeremy Boring. Jeremy Boring was, CEO of Daily Wire. He wanted to make movies. Not a moo. Very much a golem. What some would say a handler, okay? And so he's going to be trying to give James Lindsay some pushback. Let's see how it goes.
Has the conservative movement been co-opted by a left-wing epistemology?
Part of it, not all of it. What's really cool about the conservative movement is that it is and has an immune system.
The conservative movement is and has an immune system. It's an immune system with an immune system. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at our first analogy. It is an immune system with an immune system. What do you not get?
A cultural immune system. Most of that cultural immune system, I think, is actually religious belief, but it's also principle. It's also cleaving to tradition. And so the answer is part of the movement has been the part that's been, as the kids call it, black-pilled, disaffected, alienated, despair about the circumstances that we're in, lost their sense of north. But there's a principled element and a religious element and a faithful element that is not. So as a creature that came, I can't say, I used to say I came from the left. I didn't come from the left. I was just dumb politically.
Now, this is fair. A lot of us didn't necessarily come from the left. You can see with my Hard R videos behind the paywall that I was still very much how I am now, surrounded by the, only the goy has to endure liberalism while the moos get to co-opt it, while the commies get to co-opt it. You have to live by the liberal position while your political enemies don't, is how I would sum that up.
And in kind of professional, educated spaces. So all the people around me were left. Like many people following 2006 through 8, I just generally blamed things on George W. Bush. Therefore, Obama. Like, that was the political depth right there.
Right. Now he just blames things on the woke right, which he can't really name.
The kind of, ignorance. But I watched the leftist epistemology and ontology, to use fancy words, the woke thing, take over the left, sort of from the edge of the inside. 20, we'll say 10, 12 through 20. And there was no
the edge of the inside, always hedging its bets.
System. There was no guardrail. And I say the opposite in the conservative movement.
Are the guardrails holding?
As a matter of fact, it not only looks like the guardrails are holding, it looks like to me that they are rapidly fortifying, that they are becoming, we're at this moment of change where it looks like they're
the guardrails were just not being descriptive at all. This is all spell casting.
Becoming the dominant force in the movement again. It's this old saying, I think it goes back to the World Wars, maybe it precedes the World Wars, that America shows up late, but when it does, it shows up right. Mm-hmm. And what it's really referring to is kind of the American conservative, if you want, immune system. And it's been a little slow to recognize the problem within its own ranks, but it's showing up and has been showing up probably since.
I'm just curious, are we conserving 1776? Are we conserving before the Hart-Celler Act? Are we conserving after the Hart-Celler Act, after the Civil Rights Act? Curious what we're conserving.
I mean, I felt a meaningful change last Easter, so a year ago. A much bigger change over the summer last year with Operation, what did you call it? Midnight Hammer?
Midnight Hammer.
Yeah, so you had this kind of periodic exposure. And then when Charlie Kirk was murdered, it wasn't his murder that becomes the piece of the story.
Right. Now, what you should remember about Charlie Kirk is that James Lindsay taking that corpse of Charlie Kirk and turning it into his best friend, which no one believes.
Opportunity to say that, you guys probably think of Charlie as, a major and important figure, and he was just my best friend. And so it's tough, but.
You lying bag of dog cocks. Continuing.
It's what happened after has shocked and disoriented the conservative movement into realizing, Houston, we have a problem. And so I think it's rapidly realizing something's going on, and it's gaining its feet, and it's fortifying the guardrails. And I think we might be okay.
So you were, a voice crying out in the wilderness.
A voice crying out in the wilderness. The analogies. A voice crying out in the wilderness. No. When he was criticizing communism, everyone listened to him. When he started crying about the woke right, people stopped listening to him. A voice crying out in the wilderness. Oh, he loved to hear that. The Gollum handler really gassing up James Lindsay.
For the last several years, but particularly 18 months ago.
Just so you know, Jeremy Boring's forehead is not going to get larger over time, and James Lindsay isn't wearing a toupee. I just want to get that out of the way now, because you're going to think that, but it's not true. I didn't use AI to make Jeremy Boring's forehead larger over time or to give James Lindsay a toupee. None of that happened. If you think that, you're woke right. You're wrong, okay?
About this idea of the woke right, as you call it. Tell us what it is.
I mean, it's people that claim to be on the right that act like woke people.
How do woke people act?
Well, identity politics, cancel culture, punitive behavior with no regard for truth. It's not like they're trying to punish wrongdoers. They're punishing political enemies, and that disregard for the truth.
Yeah, the Moos never do that. I mean, the ADL never punishes political enemies by literally calling TPUSA like a hate group. His handlers never do that. That's just what the woke right is doing. If you want to know what the Moos are doing, just listen to exactly what he says about the woke right.
In favor of their kind of political tribe is very key. But I don't want to we can really overcomplicate this.
Yeah, he could overcomplicate this. And he has. What is this from? What is this, a year ago? December 1st of 2024. Let's see how he's improved on this, since it's been developing, right? Normally something happens and you define it, but he's trying to define something that doesn't have a definition to it over and over again, and it's driving himself crazy.
And James, you mentioned the term woke right. It's a term you and I have both used, but it'd be interesting to talk about it for a number of reasons. But first of all, what do you mean by that term? Because a lot of people are very confused about it.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the best term. It's more accurate I don't use the word woke too. I use it a little too casually still.
And that was in 2024. So rest assured, no matter what conversation he has, look at him. Totally, dude. I have to look at his face. Okay? Look at the wear and tear on the man's face. Having to explain it again because none of it's sticking.
Now 2 or more years really overcomplicating this story, probably to my detriment. But it's people who claim to be on the right who act woke. To me, let's get a little more complicated. This is a smart people show. You're smart people.
I only play smart people on TV.
Well, you convince the audience. That's what matters. So woke kind of has 3 pieces to it in some sense. We could just say it's having a critical consciousness, which is
critical consciousness, which comes from Moose. This comes from Tikkun. I'm going to have to do an entire stream on Tikkun Olam, honestly. Honestly, I've shown it in previous streams how Reform Moodyism and the concept of Tikkun Olam is the backbone. I can even show you how it's... Let me do that. I'm calling an audible. Here we go. First audible of the stream. So it's pretty easy to link moos to all of the ills of our current society, okay? Let's see how Tikkun Olam goes together with trans kids, for example, okay? Viewing transgender youth as viewing them as a marginalized group facing hatred and bigotry, that's Tikkun Olam? Huh. Interesting. That epistemology is rooted in Moodyism. Citing whatever that... I feel like my chair is going to levitate if I say whatever that is. humans created in God's image, and the idea that God has multiple gendered attributes would to argue of the ideology responsible for this. It's all moo. We're gonna get mooey. Let's go.
Enough, but it has a way of thinking about the world. It has a methodology, and it has kind of an approach. The methodology is ultimately Machiavellian. It's willingness to lie and distort, to play bad, to be the fox in order to gain power, because at the end of the day, power is all that matters. It's, Lord Voldemort saying there is no good or evil, only power, and those too weak to seek it, which is kind of the quintessential statement of psychopathy. I believe J.K. Rowling is a greater student of the concept of psychopathy than anybody's ever given her credit for, and that the Harry Potter allegory is actually a long testament to normalcy versus psychopathy. But so you have the Machiavellian methodology. You have an approach that's kind of the
we have somewhat of a consequentialist ideology going on here. We never see that with the Moos, that their in-group is a higher preference than anything else.
friend-enemy distinction that plays with that. It's a tribalism equipped with an enemy. So there's this idea that you are a political tribe. It's not necessarily clear who that tribe is, but there's definitely an enemy. You can definitely pick out who the enemy is, and you're going to go after that enemy. And anybody who doesn't join in going after the enemy, this is the key, declares themselves also among the enemy. So the friends of the friend-enemy distinction are those who will fight the enemy once the enemy has been identified and declared. With the woke right, that enemy is neocons. It's the post-war liberal consensus, and those
neocons never went to bat for whites. The post-war consensus people never went to bat for whites. Go ahead.
who uphold it. It's Jews.
Never went to bat for whites. Go ahead.
It's the woke left in some
Attacked whites directly. I'm listening.
sense, but it's also conservative moderates.
Conservative moderates never went to bat for whites. I'm listening so far. Can you believe that who he's calling the woke right is people that are pro-white? Not just anti-Israel, but also pro-white, being like, hey, we're not being advocated for, and in fact marginalized because our concerns are not being taken seriously.
Who are not going to go radical right wing with them. With the woke left, it depends. Pick your favorite theory. It's critical race theory. It was obviously that the enemies were going to be white people and whiteness itself, whatever that means as a cultural force. With the queer theorists, it was going to be normalcy. With the communist, it was going to be the bourgeoisie and capitalists. Mm-hmm. But the mechanism's the same. So there's a declared enemy. Everybody's against the enemy.
So he's using the Mooish epistemology where they're all set, and anyone on their out group, something must be wrong with them and they must be repaired.
Who fights the enemy is the friend, and anybody who refuses to fight.
Fellas, is the audio better? Please tell me it is. Just lie to me, please.
The enemy declares themselves complicit with the enemy, therefore part of the enemy. So that logic or methodology or approach is key. But then there's the deepest part is the way of thinking, which is this suspicion that the world has been rigged up to work the way that it does by secret and hidden forces and powers that are interested, even unconsciously, often unconsciously, in their own continuance of power over a alienated and oppressed minority group. The left sees this in terms of classes. So you have an oppressed class, the proletariat for communists, racial minorities for CRT, queer or deviant or perverse.
Now, these people have been running academia, governmental institutions, and corporations now. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, James. So they've been in a position of power so the woke right's not. And so what you're describing so when you started to target the woke right, we go, well, they're not in power. So why do we, even if it's true, even if you could define it, they're not in power. So why do we care? And so we're starting to develop a sense of we need to fight back against the people that James Lindsay brought our attention to with the communists. Terrific.
Or whatever for queer theory, they use all these words for themselves, and you can go down the list. There's all the as Judith.
This is very true. Me and Fist cover this on stream all the time, where they're having, it seems like weekly international conferences at this point. James Lindsay's flown out to Israel a couple of times as well, so it's really not a secret anymore. It's really more of the J answer instead of the JQ.
Butler herself even called it that exasperated etc. of identity classes. But on the right, they conceive of it differently. They conceive of it of the correct collective not as an oppressed class, but as an oppressed national identity. There's a righteous nation that has a mythology that has a history, that has an inheritance, and we are not receiving that inheritance. We've been alienated from our own heritage.
Now, of course, he does not have this same literary lineage that the communists and the Moos do. Communists and Moos, direct literary lineage. They reference it all the time. And then he has to act like, what, Dave Smith is reading Julius Evola? It's incoherent.
Because we've been too tolerant, we've let in polluting elements, we let the women vote or something like this. And therefore, what we need is a massive purge back to the pure expression of the national collective. But it's the same mentality. There's a collectivity of people that is oppressed by some structural force in society that has been erected by the people who benefit from it. And those people maintain it, even in ignorance, to keep it going.
I read, this would have probably been in 2006, 2007. I read The ABCs of Anarcho-Communism. And at that time, Howard Zinn, I think is who it was, had brought it back into publication because he thought it was like one of the great pieces of American political thought.
Now, just like the left, we're going to talk about people that they perceive have dangerous ideas, but they're going to be unable to link them to any actual people that they're calling woke right. So this is just guilt by association through pseudo-intellectualism.
And one of my takeaways from it is obviously it's more of a tract than a book. It's a super simple piece, but he sort of goes through all of the sundry political movements of the early 20th century, and he talks about all of them as being of the left. And I'd never encountered the idea, for example, that libertarianism was a left-wing idea. I have some libertarian sympathies myself, but my takeaway from Bergman's book is that almost every left-wing political movement is premised around an idea of original sin, that there's something that's gone wrong in the human experience. Some moment, I've talked about this a lot lately.
Right. So any of your grievances will be considered some sort of original sin, as if you're making them up. There's never a truth factor to your grievances.
A moment when people had agency. Since that moment, we've lacked agency because we can't get back to that original sin. And then a utopianist vision that if we could overcome that original sin, we'd arrive at some sort of Edenic new reality. And as you say, for the Marxist, it's class. For the libertarian, it's coercion, et cetera. But they all sort of have this idea that if we could overcome that original sin, we'd arrive at the world that we're supposed to live in. And in that sense, there's a sort of religious quality.
The world that we're supposed to live in is like the white suburb I grew up in. It's really, we had it rather recently before we completely opened the borders. We were able to avoid it for a while in many areas because you just want to go to where the whites are, but they won't stop leaking into our areas, okay? What we just want is a safe white neighborhood, okay? That's really it.
To all of these ideologies, that they do come, they are accompanied by the promise of heaven, a kind of heaven on earth, if we could just get to them.
Yeah.
For the woke right, as you call them, the piece that's missing between my understanding of them and what you just described is
exactly. Again, he's explained it so many times. This was in his intervention with Brett Weinstein. The person he's talking to that's in his corner still doesn't fucking get it and still can't connect the dots. Even your boys, even your friends still don't know what you're talking about, James. It's incredible.
What is that affirmative vision? What is that? You say that there's like a nation, an inheritance that's been denied us. And yet, if you look at, ideological movements within this piece of conservatism, like Catholic integralism, as an example, the real intellectual Catholic integralist, I think the word is overapplied. I think there are a lot of Catholics who've never heard of integralism. There's a lot of Catholics who are political and therefore think that they're integralist, even though they aren't really a part of the actual intellectual movement that is Catholic integralism. But the real writers, Vermeule and others, to them, America itself is a betrayal of whatever our birthright is, whatever our actual inheritance should be.
Sure.
How far back do we have to go before we get to the thing that
birthright? Now, when you say birthright, does that usually go along with ethnicity? In other countries, your birthright, oftentimes that references a claim to a land, as far as I know.
Called woke right actually believes is our inheritance.
There are so many things to say here. How do we even organize? Like you just, I'm like picturing chapters of a book now, like literally chapters of a book. Let me try to touch on some of the points briefly, and I'll try to remember. You probably will have to prime me to how far back do we go? The real question you asked, I'll probably forget.
He just rambled and at the end said, the question you just asked, I'll probably forget. It's like Jeremy's trying to train him right now, and it's incredible. Yeah, I'm probably going to forget what the question even was because I'm going to have to, James Lindsay showed us how the left will just try to bore you to death. It's as wide as Lake Superior and as deep as a mud puddle.
Answer is to be determined is actually the answer to that question. There is an answer. Further back is another way to answer that. When it doesn't work, further back. Well, this far, and then when it doesn't work, further back. And this logic is actually similar to the logic on the left. But the woke right and the woke left do not think in an identical fashion.
Okay.
The woke left and the woke right don't think in an identical fashion. Why, I thought it was equal and opposite, James. He's been screaming. Same energy, different direction, equal and opposite. Incredible. Now all of a sudden they don't think the same way. It's constantly evolving.
So what the literally Augustinian framework that you just laid out, if you want to phrase it that way, this original sin and redemption, this is I think a profound thesis. Not everybody's going to like or agree with this, but I've been making it a little bit lately. The left is actually, in a lot of respects, we always think of them as being very progressive and forward. And in fact, I would argue that they are much more reactive. They're much more reactionary. They're actually much more regressive.
Can you believe that James Lindsay thinks that he came up with the left is actually regressive? Oh my God, dude. Wow. James Lindsay thinks he gave us the concept of the regressive left. Incredible.
Backwards thinking, because what they're actually envisioning is that original state of man that we're trying to actually recover. However, they want their cake and eat it too. They're fantastical utopians that way. They want to be able to go back to that idyllic state of nature, the prelapsarian state, if you want, but also to retain the benefits that came with.
Well, no. And in a democracy, in a liberal society, we had a lot of non-white people forced upon us through immigration. It's very inorganic, wasn't organic. Things have changed a lot since then, and we realize who did it and why. It's really what it is.
Having a society, an advanced worldly society. So you could break it down and they want to return to the primordial Edenic state. They want to go back to Eden, but they want to take their iPhone back to Eden with them, and they want to go back on their own terms.
Yeah.
So, but it is essentially, with the Roman V for the U, it is a return movement. In fact,
right. The Moos don't have any movement of returning the Moos back to Israel, do they? Very unique to the woke right that he made up. I can't, dude.
Marx is clear about that. In the Economic Philosophic Manuscripts, which he wrote in 1844, Marx lays out what he thinks communism is. This is not published until much later. This even would not have informed the foundation of the Soviet Union in 1917. It didn't.
Now, when he talks about Marx, we have Marxist professors in our academic institutions, and Kamala Harris's father was a Marxist economist. So when he references quote unquote thinkers on the left, people call themselves Marxists, and they are in our government and academic institutions. So I might take their literature a little more seriously.
It published in the 1930s, I think. It's possible they had these writings. I don't know. But it probably wasn't part of their thinking. And he writes, communism is the positive transcendence of private property as human self-estrangement, which is a lot of words. But the next part is the key. And thus a complete return of man to himself as a social, that is, human being. So Marx is explicit, and then he says, "And this return will be bringing with it all of the stages of."
I haven't done it yet. Whenever I just go to Grok and put in Tikkun Olam, if I did that with trans kids and it easily pulled something up, I could easily do that with Marx. Oh, I can't do it. Nope. It's okay. We're gonna continue. We're gonna do that for later.
Of societal development. I forget exactly how the last sentence in the paragraph goes, but this. And it's going to be consciously bringing back all the technology, society, et cetera. This is Rousseau's savages made to live in cities, where he wanted to return to the freedom of the savage, basically to, wantonly.
This is why I hate people that read. This is what this person said. So? And? It's so annoying. It's so annoying. Can we relate that to who you're trying to target?
Cavort will be polite, I suppose, and have no consequences for his actions, no responsibility. So the savages, but then to have the luxury of, theater and all of the nice things of the city, the restaurant, the parlor, probably the brothel, if we're being real about Rousseau, and all of his high Genevan life. So this mentality of return, but we get to keep all the good stuff is central to this leftist mythology.
It's like they're debating God and winning. It's like they're following God's law as long as they put a fishing line around Manhattan. Interesting stuff, James.
The right-wing one, actually, The fascists, at least, and the National Socialists are extraordinarily explicit, and they're my model for the woke right. I'm not saying that the woke right is fascist, and I'm not saying that they're National Socialist, although some...
The fascists are my model for the woke right, and I'm not saying they're fascist, dude. Dude. It's incomprehensible. He just talked about wanting to like have your cake and eat it too, so he wants to call the entire thing fascist because that's the model that he's using, but he's not calling them fascist. Did I mishear that?
Wing one, actually. The fascists, at least, and the National Socialists are extraordinarily explicit, and they're my model for the woke right. I'm not saying that the woke right is fascist, and I'm not saying that they're National Socialist, although some among their ranks claim those philosophies and appeal to those philosophies directly. Not all do. But the mentality is actually hyper-progressivism. It is, we're going to reunify as the nation that we were supposed to be. So we're going to look back, as Marx has it in his...
So now, in order to really sell the woke right thing, looking back is now progressive because that's what communists did. Communists said that they were progressive, but they were really looking back. And so now when you say you're looking back, that's technically Marxist because that's what Marxists did. But they're saying they're progressive. But we're not saying we're progressive, but he's calling us progressive. It's almost like how Marxists read Hegel and flipped it on its head.
The 18th Premier of Louis Bonaparte, which is in what I just said was 1844. That's 1853. So almost a decade later, he's getting in his, he's about 35 at this point writing this. And he says that hitherto all of the great movements look backwards for their inspiration, but the communists will look forward. Okay. So he tries to distinguish. But the fact is they're actually looking backwards. There's clear projection happening here. But what's actually with the fascists, they're...
Yeah. Transing the kids was looking backwards. Probably to what? The Weimar Republic? Yeah? How'd that go? Are we really regretting that? What were they looking back to trans the kids?
Doing the thing. They're looking back. When were we who we were supposed to be? When was our golden era? When was greatness in our blood?
Before the Hart-Celler Act, I believe would be the short, concise answer.
Our people in our soil, whatever it happens to be that they use to define the nation, culture, religion, genetics, ethnicity, blood, literally blood. Something made us great in the past. We've been alienated from...
Yeah, moos don't have that blood argument at all, right? I mean, it's matrilineal. So, I mean, they literally have blood and soil. Interesting.
And what we need to do is fix that. We get back to that for a purpose. And the purpose is to move forward.
Update before the Federal Reserve Act. That might be in here. He might use that against you, Fist. So be careful. You wouldn't want to be on his bad side.
To go for the magazine that Benito Mussolini published was Avanti, forward, right? But the idea is that they're going to, and Hitler says this again and again in Mein Kampf.
Oh, okay, Hitler, Mein Kampf. Oh, yeah.
That the point of purifying the blood for the Germans to get back to that pure Nordic blood is to advance humanity to its next stage. It's pure progressivism. It's pure early 20th century progressivism. They're going to be eugenic to make the Superman so that they can get humanity.
So pure blood is progressivism, okay? I don't know why everyone's so confused about James Lindsay talking about the woke right. Blood and soil is progressivism. What do you not get?
What was Hitler obsessed with? What was the proof that you had high people, high culture? You were going to have the highest culture and the highest capacity in war. So it was going to be to complete humanity. That's why you need the living room so that the good people have more space. He covers that in chapter 4 of Mein Kampf. So it's this hyper-progressive movement. So what is the case in both of these situations is what you do is what the fascists or the woke right do is they look backwards for that.
And right there, he goes, with the fascists or the woke right, do you see these rhetorical games being played? Just put a stain on their name, and then he's like, well, no, I'm not calling that person a fascist. I'm calling them woke right, but he uses them interchangeably. God forbid we use moo interchangeably.
Inspiration point from which the glorious future comes. Whereas the communists look backwards and say, how do we get back to who we're actually supposed to be and bring with us all the loot that we've taken over the past long time?
I know a lot of actresses in Hollywood who would tell me, they all had celiac disease.
Just so you know, Jeremy Boring's forehead is the exact same size. I don't want you thinking that I'm increasing the size of his head as this goes on through some sort of AI. His forehead is actually the exact same size.
And they all weighed, 90 pounds soaking wet. And they would all say things like, we evolved to eat white fish, beef tallow, and kale. And I would often remind them that if evolution is true, kale didn't exist when we evolved. And no human being until the 20th century was rich enough to have white fish, beef tallow, and kale. Like that combination of things has never existed. But it is this kind of idea that all the things we have now that are good somehow equal the Edenic state in
That's
the
right,
past.
the primordial past. So, and there, I mean, again, there's chapters here. We could do this.
Primordial past. What group of people would you say has the most primordial past of any other demographic in history? That's crazy. He's really giving away all the secrets.
Conflict of visions. But the piece that I want to say here is that there's both of these woke mentalities, if we will, have this purge culture. That at the end of the day, there's a model, and when everybody's on board with the model, it's going to work. So when it doesn't work, the cause is that some people aren't on board with the model. So then you have to find those people and you purge them. Okay, so for the left, we can use like Mao Zedong as a great example where he just...
As we know, the Moos have never had a history of purging anybody. Interesting.
Started going down the list. Well, my communism's not taking off. Let's purge the teachers. Let's purge the businessmen who are doing shady business. The three anti...
Yeah, James Lindsay isn't trying to purge people critical of Israel from the right. Okay.
Campaign, the 5 anti-campaign, the anti-rightist campaign, the anti-revisionist campaign. Let's find the people who are stopping us from getting communism in 3 years and get rid of them, because we would have communism if it wasn't for the ideologically impure who aren't on board with the belief system. Yeah. So you get this fanatical cult around their kind of it's like self-eschatological, right? They're going to produce the
right, self-eschatological. They want everybody to return back to a certain country so God can show up.
They're going to bring us back to Eden. Herbert Marcuse, the kind of arch neo-Marxist, in his first, well, I guess second major book in 1955, Eros and Civilization, actually writes that the goal is to get back into Eden, and the way to do it is to take a second bite from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Wow. Okay, so this is the mentality. Well, on the right,
now you can see this with the stream with Vocal Distance talking to Ben Boyce of these long, winding. I mean, this is what we expect from the left. Now, what's effective about people that are right wing or more or just very not left is they make way more cogent arguments. It's way more if they're going off on a tangent, it's relating to coming back to their point. James Lindsay already admitted he's going to forget the question. That's why their engagement's down.
You have the same problem. So what you're going to do is you're going to look back and you're going to say, well, maybe we had it right before the civil rights era. We'll use America as the kind of example. We'll go pre-civil rights. This is like Christopher Caldwell, Age of Entitlement. We'll go before that. And if it doesn't work, well, no. R.R. Reno, Return to the Strong Gods. We're going to go back before the World War II order. Wait, well, maybe it's not there. Maybe it's before the Federal Reserve, 1913. Maybe it's before, we could add in
progressive amendments.
Right. We can just go down the list. The 19th Amendment, the 17th Amendment, the Civil War amendments before Lincoln.
Well, these are amendments. These are not founding principles. Also, the 19th Amendment would be women can't vote, but it would also reduce a lot of men from voting as well. I mean, really the position is to have way less people voting, people who have a stake in the country, whether that's military service, whether that's being married and having kids. If you're married, your household would be the vote. It's reducing the amount of people that vote and more so putting the power. It's more of an incentive to get married if that's the way that you can vote. So it's putting or owning land, owning property, which is way more difficult nowadays. But there's certain constraints that would be much more beneficial for people that are voting, have an actual interest in the country, which is why when people vote with like land, where it's like this one guy, this one farmer's vote should mean more than a bunch of people, than 200 people living in a high rise in New York City that are going to, influence policy over all of his land. Would be the actual position.
Thinking, well, maybe in fact the American experiment had it wrong. Maybe the colonists had it right. Maybe we never had any right to break off from it.
Maybe the American experiment had it wrong. Hey, James, it's an experiment. Can the experiment be... In order for your experiment to be correct, what is your hypothesis? I think we're tired of being a fucking experiment and thinking of our identity as a country as an experiment. I know I'm done thinking of it that way.
England in the first way. So you just kind of, Joel Webbin, for example, recently said, he was put to it. And he said, somebody challenged him and said, you just want to take America back to 1950. And he said, how about 1650?
Now, Joel Webbin recently said this. Sounds like he was having a conversation. Now, as we all know, James Lindsay can say any random thing that he wants on the internet, and it's forgiven immediately. God forbid Joel Webbin says maybe the 1650s. So if Joel Webbin makes a comment like that offhand on the internet, well, you better realize it's going to be held against him. Nowadays, you can't follow the money. You follow who can't fail. That is now what you follow. Money doesn't exist anymore. The markets are fucking manipulated. There is no real financial incentive. Focus on who gets unlimited respawns, and that is how you find the chain of power.
At which point, by the way, America wasn't America.
There's no America.
Right. And so the idea will be that it will work when we attach ourselves back to the correct ideal myth of who we are and hone our people around it. This is
but
no, go ahead.
Well, conservatism, one of the fundamental premises of conservatism is that there was wisdom in the past, that there's something worth conserving. And your own politics, some of your critics would say, particularly around economics, that you seem to have an economic vision for the country that is basically a sort of Reagan, Thatcher, 1980s supply side trickle down.
Neither of them really talk about their political positions. Just vaguely seeing like, yeah, you're this kind of thing politically. It's never, even James's interpretation isn't going to be affirmative or denying of what was said. The man's always in court.
Down market solution. Are you guilty of doing this to some degree?
I mean, it's possible. I'm open to the accusation. These are the kinds of accusations I take extremely seriously. But my mentality is certainly not that like, okay. So
okay. Before we get to this ramble, the new GM for $50. Thank you so much, my dude. Also does dignify our very first Chad.
Now the Chad does what the Chad wants, and no one is stopping him because Chad does what Chad wants.
Thank you. I've missed the last few live streams, so I decided to layer some extra butter on your kippa. Also, it looks like James has been stealing all of Jeremy's food, especially the kippa butter. Fellas, I've been streaming every day. If your pockets are a little bit dry, that's completely fine. I love you all the same. This is out of passion right now. Okay, I'm here to have fun, whether or not you can want to add money. I've been streaming a lot. I completely understand that. Okay, we're here to have fun. This is eternally a part-time job. I never want to have to be out here begging or anything like that. No matter what, Ardy's going to be fine. Let's hang out and have a good time. Let's do it. So anyway, James Lindsay, listen to this answer.
Are you guilty of doing this to some degree?
I mean, it's possible. I'm open to the accusation. These are the kinds of accusations I take extremely seriously. But my mentality is certainly not that like,
these are the accusations I take seriously.
Okay. So my thought with free market economics, if you want to call it Reagan Thatcher era, Milton Friedman, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it. So not a yes or a no. Complete plausible deniability about what he believes in. And fellas, don't forget, he's never going to tell you what he believes in.
Decided nobody needs to know what my religion is any longer, and I'll never tell anybody again.
Okay? We'll never know what he believes in politically, economically, religiously.
My thought with that kind of thing is that if it doesn't work, I'm not going to look further back into a mythological past to find something that did.
Yeah, he's not going to go back to classical realism, Scottish realism, and admit that it's not working. I mean, it's not like he's built this entire villainous arc because he's afraid to admit that the post-liberals have some really good critiques of liberalism. Never mentioned the fact that liberalism's only just been meant to be used and abused throughout history. There's never been like a real liberal party. It's only been co-opted. But go ahead.
It either works or doesn't on its merits. So I hope my mentality is different. But this is the kind of thing
my mentality is different. He doesn't even know the thoughts he has in his own body until they're being fed to him.
Me up at night, but this is the kind of thing that would, if something actually disturbed my sleep in the kind of realm of thought. That's the kind of accusation people send that I take seriously. There are a lot of accusations people send that I don't take seriously, but that's the kind that I think very seriously about. But I'm reading, for example,
if I was going to lose sleep over it, which I don't, I would lose sleep over it, which I'm not. Anyway, let's answer the question, James.
Now, Alfred Rosenberg's The Myth of the 20th Century. I've not finished this. Alfred Rosenberg was Adolf Hitler's chief ideologist. That was his official title in the Nazi regime. And he wrote this book in the early 1930s, late 1920s called The Myth of the 20th Century to outline what it is they think is like he starts off by saying basically, the first sentence is, it has become time to rewrite history. And we've got it all wrong, and then the next section, I'm not joking, is basically in the primordial.
What they do is correcting history, right? Now, it's no mistake that in Ukraine, you can deny the Holodomor before you can deny the Holly. because there is a correct history that they write.
Primordial past. The North Pole wasn't where it's located. There was another landmass. Maybe it was called Atlantis. All the Nordics came down from there, and they started populating different parts. And he tells this. The first chapter is 100 pages long.
Now,
and
I'm not kidding. I've tried this. I couldn't go to sleep, so I'm just going to listen to Lindsay. That should do it. That works really, really well. Fellas, go to New Discourses, okay? Pick something that's like 3 hours, all right? Actually, you could pick something that's a half an hour, and you're knocked out in a few minutes. I am not kidding. I want to hear you guys report back to actually trying this out. It's an excellent sleep aid.
Tells this story, whether it's India, whether it's Iran or Persia, whether it's the Levant, whether it's Greece, whether it's Rome, whether it's Germany, about how these, primordial Nordics came down, and where they went, there was culture, there was flourishing, there was advancement, and then the mongrel races poisoned them. And
primordial Nordics? Do we ever call the moose primordial?
Cultures all collapsed. Why did Rome collapse? Mongrel races. Why did Greece collapse? Levantine mongrel races. Why did the Middle East collapse? Mongrel races. The whole thing. Why did Persia collapse? Well, they had the really, really right idea with Zoroaster, he says. However, which he claims is Zoroaster's point. By the way, I've asked Grok. I'm not exactly a historian, but I've asked Grok with almost every section of this book, is what Alfred Rosenberg said here true? And it's like, no.
He asked Grok if it was true, and Grok was like, no. Well, James, I also asked Grok some questions, okay? Has a Mooish NGO ever advocated for white people? Understanding the question, the query asks whether any non-governmental organization, NGO, explicitly identified as Mooish, founded by, led by, or primarily serving the Mooish community, has ever publicly advocated specifically for white people, interpreted here as promoting the interests, rights, or advancement of white people as a racial or ethnic group. This could include efforts against discrimination targeting whites, support for white cultural preservation, or advocacy framed around white identity. Based on extensive searches across the web, no such examples exist. Mooish NGOs have a long history of broad human rights and anti-discrimination work, often rooted in Mooish values of Tikkun Olam. Interesting. However, their advocacy typically focuses on marginalized groups. Now, mind you, the fact that there's a Black History Month, LGBT month, Pride Demon month, okay? They're still marginalized, right? Even though marginalized means that a group is being treated as peripheral or insignificant, which in this case is the majority group, and explicitly opposes white supremacy or racial hierarchies that privilege whites. When addressing whiteness, it is usually critiqued as a system of power rather than defended. Thanks, Moose. Can't believe we're against you. Can't believe we're critical of you. Hey, Grok! Is saying abolish the white race genocidal rhetoric? The phrase abolish the white race can be interpreted in different ways depending on context, intent, and how it's presented. On its face, it could be seen as genocidal rhetoric if it's taken literally as a call to eliminate people of a specific racial group through violence or erasure. Hey, Grok, I just got one more question for you. Is saying abolish the moose genocidal rhetoric? The phrase abolish the moose is unequivocally genocidal rhetoric if it calls for the elimination, harm, or erasure of moose as a group. Thanks, Grok. Sometimes you got to check in with Grok, okay? Oh, look at him. He's smitten. Oh, Grok, what are we ever going to do with you?
Absolutely not. But his claim was that Zoroaster came down and created a religion based on purifying and protecting the race. But they were too nice about it. They were too polite, and they allowed Levantine corruption. So they collapsed. India collapsed. They had the caste system, the best thing ever, and it collapsed. So the idea that he has is, okay, there is actually, you said how far back? That was a question. There is a primordial beginning during which we're still in an Edenic state. It just doesn't operate according to this kind of Rousseauian model.
And Edenic state. So the Garden of Eden and Edenic state, and then saying Rousseauian, okay?
There's this state of nature that precedes the Hobbesian
and then Hobbesian, okay? This is why, so his audience feels stupid for not knowing what he's talking about. I think he's stupid because I don't know what he's talking about. Get a backbone.
The brute is short. There's a state of nature for the certain correct people. These Aryans who came from Atlantis, I'm not joking, that's what the book says, or wherever they came from, that had a higher understanding of the world, a higher spiritual development. They might as well be another species.
Yeah.
And that's actually how the Nazi thinking was, is that it was almost another species. So what you do is you go back, and when
the Goyim, the Gentiles, we're not another species, okay? We're not cattle. Come on, don't be woke right.
it doesn't work. You say we didn't go back far enough, and you go back. And so that's the distinction from my thinking. My thinking is either what I'm saying works or it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, we modify. Hopefully we don't end up in like John Maynard Keynes, right? But I don't have this vision where they definitely do have this vision that there is this intrinsic human soul somewhere back in the past that we've allowed to become polluted and corrupted. But if we could get it back, then we could unify, create strength, and rush forward.
So what is James Lindsay's vision?
I mean, I actually have this vision that matches, if we were going to have to play the go back game, I was reading Federalist 51 the other day, and I was thinking, this is so beyond.
Mind you, I've watched too many James Lindsay interviews. Every interview is what he just recently read. In case you couldn't tell, he has an awful memory, which is why he says whatever he wants. And then he's like, yeah, whatever I said, I said. He has no memory at all whatsoever. All he can tell you is what he just read recently.
On genius that
Oh, this is great. Fist, this is all just a dodge for explaining the effects of usury. Hey, come on. This is a Christian country. Let's not say it's usury, okay? Let's not get down to that. Hey, we're trying to retain there's nothing more American than usury, okay? There's nothing more Do you love how there's Mudeo-Christianity, but there's no Christian Moodyism? You notice how it always only moves in one direction, just to make it less Christian? There's no Christianity that makes Moodyism more Christian, which is really incredible, because think of all the different types of Moodyism there are, and there's only Mudeo-Christianity and never a Christian Moodyism. Interesting. Rat named Mouse, member for 2 months, thank you. I just joined and heard in the Garden of Eden. Ah, yes, the first recorded instance of a woman having everything and deciding it isn't good enough. Let's go.
Awestruck at how it's probably James Madison wrote it. It's possible Alexander Hamilton. It's signed Publius. It says at the top on the official government, source site that it's James Madison or Alexander Hamilton wrote it. But it's so unbelievably genius in talking about human nature and the desire for power. This is the short version, to quote Mel Brooks, is that this is the divided powers paper. We need a federal constitution. We need a big enough people where there's ample factions and sects that will duke it out for their own.
Yeah, really, it's the United States where we have ample factions that duke it out for each other. Hey, James, what if there's a couple factions that form, okay, that want to take away your rights? And that's kind of like what you're seeing now, isn't it? What if we just lose democratically to the communists, like what you saw with Zohar Mamdani in New York City? How's that going?
Interests, so that we don't have any single majority that becomes too strong and conquers everybody. But we also have to protect the government from itself. And the only way to do it is to divide the powers and pit interest against interest. The ambition of the president should counter the ambition of the legislature. The ambition of the House should counter the ambition of the Senate, the judiciary as well. And so it's pretty genius. So my vision starts in this kind of school of thought. I'm very American in this way. I'm very common sense realist.
Very American, common sense realist. A lot of the Indians coming over, that are American, very common sense realist, right? I love how these atheists, I'm sorry, he's agnostic, but they have a spiritual silver spoon being brought up in the West Christian civilization. All of these things are just a given for them. And they think that people will just come over and adopt those ways. How's that working out?
That we all have the ability, maybe not in equal degrees, but we all have the ability to perceive the world around us and make some sense of it. That we are often closest to our own problems.
We all have the ability to do that. Some more than others. Yeah. Some a lot more than others. Some not at all.
And therefore have a lot of incentives, not just insight. I might not know why my toilet doesn't work at all, but I have a really strong incentive to get it fixed.
Motherfucker, you don't know how politics works at all. Can you get a politics plumber?
Soon, get it fixed cheaply, get it fixed adequately. I'm not calling city council and hoping that I can get on a list 2.5 months from now for them to come straighten out my toilet. Either I'm going to figure out how to do it with the YouTube, or I'm calling a plumber, and probably calling a plumber, and we're going to get the thing sorted out today. So I have this belief that the founders had something right, that the more self-government we have, the more that people are allowed to.
The founders of unknown ethnic genetic makeup
pursue their own incentives, not pinned down by the various other interests, government among them, but also corporate interests, sectarian interests, factional interests, party interests. The more people are able to pull back and pursue their own interests, the closer they get to the correct incentive structures that produce positive sum outcomes, that produce prosperity and abundance for people.
That's a structural answer. that's a vision for how the country should work.
Yeah.
Do you have a vision for what is a good society? What is...
Are you ready, fellas? James Lindsay on what is a good society. Now, is it going to be a bunch of random political talking points and platitudes? Of course not. It's going to be something very cohesive.
What is the fullest purpose of a man? What is the fullest purpose of a country?
Those are two questions because a man and a country are
That's
not the
fair
same.
enough.
But truth, justice, and peace are
Truth, justice, and peace. Okay? Otherwise known as New Hampshire. Wyoming.
these foundations.
Mm-hmm.
So if a country is not interested in truth, you have a real problem. So you have to have a country that's at least generally interested in truth, that's generally orienting toward truth, and has institutions.
Right. And what if they're not with these competing interests, right? What if there's a competing interest that's anti-truth?
They're able to help it achieve that. I don't know if, Jonathan Rauch is a very interesting thinker. He wrote a book called The Constitution of Knowledge some years ago. Sorry, Jonathan, I know we're kind of friends, but it's riddled with Trump derangement syndrome, in my opinion, which takes away from the otherwise brilliant epistemological presentation of the book. But he argues that there are kind of these three pieces to a truth-seeking foundation that a good society would have to have. And one is that there's, no final say. So every proposition is open to debate again. There's no special authority.
Every proposition is open to debate again. Well, what about the Holly, James? Seems to be a reoccurring question throughout history that you guys seem like you don't want to talk about. Seems like you're all talking no cock.
To walk in and say, well, I have green robes on, so you have to listen to me. And then you have to have institutions that are organized around the pursuit of truth that actually are mutually able to check one another. Without those three ingredients, you're not going to orient toward truth. So we have to have a functioning society that cares about truth. Justice, and this comes back to Federalist 51 and its genius. We'll say Madison, maybe Hamilton, but we'll say Madison wrote that the end of society is justice. The end of a society is justice. I think he's right. And he says that a society, once it lacks justice, will pursue it until it obtains it or until it loses liberty. It will sacrifice liberty actually on the altar of justice. So we have to have a society that's actually interested in pursuing justice, a non-corrupt society. And peace, in some sense, that's idealistic because even just at the simplest, there's crazy people who are dangerous, like the lunatic who killed Irina Zora, whatever.
Whatever. He always shows how little he actually cares about something. You can just say that Ukrainian woman. He's like, yeah, like that crazy guy that killed her fucking whatever her fucking name is.
Young Ukrainian woman is showed, at least on the state level, not fit to stand trial. He's just a crazy person.
He's just a crazy person. He didn't say anything about white people when he killed her. He's just a random, crazy, jogging man.
And it doesn't mean we shouldn't do nothing about it. But if we don't do something about it, we're in a society that's not pursuing justice. Right. And we have a major problem. And we also have a society where peace isn't possible because if there's not some...
Peace isn't possible? Go on. Yes, James?
Mechanism to deal with that, then conflict will beget conflict, and necessarily so. So that's sort of idealistic or aspirational, I suppose. But in practice, what it looks like, at least my vision, is a high trust society. Right? This is a society where there's a reason why people are captivated by Japan, where you can, forget your cell phone on a park bench, come back 6 hours later.
He's now going to make the National Socialist argument. Okay. This is the National Socialist argument, just without saying white people. Are you ready?
And not only is it still there, but somebody cleaned it and left you a nice note and maybe a coupon to get a cup of tea for your trouble or whatever. This idea of a high trust society not only is alluring for a domesticated creature like myself, but it opens doors that are simply not possible in a low trust.
So far, we're still NatSoc. It opens up doors that are just not possible unless you have peace. You have unbelievable ingenuity when you have peace in society, says the NatSoc. Yes?
Society. You do not have a high functioning, low trust society. There's no such thing. To get to a high level of flourishing, of prosperity, of abundance, of success, of fulfillment, you have to have a high trust society. You can't be an effete computer programmer who can't defend himself in a society where you constantly have to defend yourself.
Still NatSoc. I'm listening, James.
You can't build a glorious art gallery in a society where you're constantly afraid somebody's going to rob you, right? You have to, and then lots of things that we all like. We all like to be able to be comfortable in public. We don't want to go out in public in body armor. We don't want to have to all pay for private security everywhere we go
Right.
and have bodyguards. We want to live just, an easygoing, normal, convenient life that only exists when you.
Have you guys you've seen like the Mustache Man speeches, right? Like that voice. I want to do that voice, but with what James Lindsay is saying right now, and put it over Mustache Man, right? That's what we need. We need to overdub Mustache Man and then exactly probably like 200 words of what James Lindsay is saying right here and put it over Mustache Man. That's going to be a project that I'm setting for myself.
Have a high trust society. So we also have to have enough law and order on a structural side to help provide that. But we also have to have kind of that internal disposition to where antisocial behavior is rare and something
Well,
that has to be dealt with.
Open the asylums back up. We're listening.
Other than the sort of Jeffersonian deists, the founders would say that something is Christianity. That what gives us the ability for self-government is that there's something in ourself that governs us. Is it possible for a secular society to actually have self-government? Is it possible for a secular society to actually function in the way that you're describing?
Now, as a man of God, that's a great question to ask James Lindsay, right? So James Lindsay, on this question of a secular society, is of course going to do exactly what leftists do and deconstruct the word secularism. Well, what do you mean by the word secular? I mean, there's a lot of ways to interpret the word secular.
So this is one of my bugbears, is the word secular. I don't think we use this word with sufficient clarity.
Okay.
What do we mean by secular? Do we mean that the government isn't choosing a particular sect over any other? In other words, a multi-sect society or a religiously pluralistic society. Well, first of all, just to appeal back to Federalist 51, that's literally the argument that Madison makes there, is that you have to have a pluralistic society in order to compete the largest, a sufficient number of...
But in fairness...
Right. Pluralistic, meaning any religions, right? Is that what he meant? He just meant pluralistic, like, many. It wasn't in a certain context.
Actions.
In fairness, pluralism in the context of the founding is a denominationally divided Christian
Thank you, Jeremy. It's different denominations of Christianity.
Society. It's not the way that we think of pluralism today, where society is divided between agnostics and atheists, and plus all the Protestant denominations, plus Catholic, plus Islam, plus Buddhists from the East, and plus Muslims from the
Left out the schnozberries there. I couldn't help but notice.
Middle East. I mean,
and communists, which is actually
is a religion.
The most relevant piece of the story. That's what's different in the United States pre-1950 versus post-1950 is an enormous cultural lurch toward embracing communism, which is why I.
No, I've shown that we had a LaGuardia Airport is named after Fiorello LaGuardia, who called himself a Republican socialist in the 1920s. Okay, no, James, it is. I would have to do. I can already show communism in the 20s and 30s, like really start like BLM kind of communism. Any of the race riots were pretty much commie influenced, but you have to cross-reference a lot of things. It would take me some time to really try and find, like, when did the Moos, I think, were in the United States in the mid 1600s. So, you really would just start there. It's a long journey.
A religious ideology, if ever there was.
But this is also why I reject the claim that secularism is the target to be talked about. Right. It's in fact, we have at least one, arguably now two, intolerant ideologies that function as religions, specifically political Islam and communism, that are
right. There's no belief system that's both political and religious other than communism. Wonder where communism came from. Huh. Interesting. We're leaving out the schnozberries again. All right, James. I'll correct you. Keep going.
Extraordinarily strong and they're not fringe sects any longer in our society. And these two, or either one of them alone, could create tremendous disturbance to that general high trust circumstance. So
the thought that rules out thought.
When you say, it was Christian, you also have to recall, and I'm not trying to like play this game in a weird way, that you also have people like, John Adams,
Schnozberries, of course, famous for assimilating to their host countries.
Who said the Constitution is written for moral and religious people and wholly inadequate to the governance of any other, who is arguing passionately at times for the positive things that the Hebrew people, the Jews, few though they were, brought to the United States.
Oh, the founding fathers actually liked the Hebrews, okay? Sure, you can find an example of them liking some things that Hebrews have said. You can find a lot of literature on them not really agreeing at all, though.
Their image of righteousness, the way that they conduct themselves in their business is something America wants. And at the same time, you have him writing very passionate skepticism of Catholics. So what was he seeing in the Catholics? If you go read John Adams about it, well, is that
look at that poisoning the well. See, he kind of favored the Hebrews, and he was like, what's up with these Catholics? So I mean,
they are loyal to the Vatican and have a tendency to become an intolerant sect or an intolerant ideology. So you have this same tension at the founding. But yeah, there was a general presumption that people would be, I will say, culturally Christian, because there was a lot of room for deists. And you say maybe not in the general population, which is true, but in the people that were writing the framework, there was an awful lot of deism, agnosticism, or even whatever Jeffersonian Christianity is.
Well, I think even Adams said to Jefferson that if we two, you and I, beheld the Shekinah glory, we still would not believe, which is quite a quite a statement.
Yeah. So it's all of the things on the table are different than what they were talking about. But I agree that intolerant ideologies, militant ideologies, whether they're integralist, whether they're communist, whether they're jihad.
Intolerant ideologies. So it sounds like right now that we must tolerate the intolerant ideologies. That's what it sounds like so far. Bear in the Woods, $5, thank you. Lindsay, I just finished reading Trigon, so my answer to what makes a perfect, good, or very best country is love and peace. Begins doing kata. His taekwondo poomse. His little sword dance. Moon Ninja, $2, thank you. Did James put on 50 pounds? He looks huge AF. Did I really even alter the thumbnail? You have to think about it. Just John, please, $10, thank you so much. I adopt Josiah Trenham's view since we mailed someone to Japan 2 times and untold number of deaths. We have steadily declined. Can't help but see a religious judgment for our actions. Who did we send to Japan? Interesting. Arden Party, $5. Western communism originated in the same way that kicking your neighbor's anthill results in getting ants in your yard. 1950 was 5 years after a kick. Oh, nukies. Nuki. Okay. Fair enough. New GM, $5. Thanks a lot, my dude. Thomas Jefferson did read Moo texts. He also described it as looking for gemstones in a pile of dung. I posted a video on the Telegram on it. This is what I'm saying, dude. We're trusting this doctor, okay, about history.
Or whether they're Christian nationalist or, theocratic Christian nationalism, as it were, present a problem. But I actually believe that, as did, again, Federalist 51, it makes it clear that religious liberty is what this country was founded on. But the debates, even at the time, were very, very clear that there's something wrong. The debates about Catholicism were very clear that there's something different about a potentially militant ideology that can operate as a large bloc, as you will see with today. It's not really Catholics that we consider to be in that vein, but Islamists and communists. Yeah. And now maybe even a faction of rising fascists.
I love it. I love how he thinks calling the right fascist is new. Like that's a new idea he came up with. The left hasn't been doing that. You don't sound like the left at all. This is definitely new.
With the woke right or whatever. So I do think that a society that protects religious liberty can achieve this. And I agree with Madison that the difference between the sects actually produces a guarantor of liberty. However, because each is going to fight for its own standing. Like if you have a relatively small or, different Christian belief, like Seventh-day Adventism, for example, they're going to advocate for their own religious liberty, their own liberties to practice their faith and so on. Whereas, if the Southern...
That's why democracies are great. We're just constantly battling each other, and then it's just a battle for power, and we never actually get anything done in the country. It's a genius.
Southern Baptist Convention got this platinum scepter. Maybe they wouldn't let them do that. And so I agree with this. However, the rub comes in the paradox of tolerance. Karl Popper really, it's funny that it's a footnote and he never developed it. This giant, almost impossible to read book, The Open Society and Its Enemies, 1945, grappling with the reality of both communists, but mostly Nazis and what that means in the world. He writes this book and he has this footnote where he says there's a paradox to tolerance, which is essentially that if you're tolerant of intolerance, you'll end up intolerant. But if you're intolerant,
I've only heard the tolerance paradox from the left, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
of intolerance, you're already intolerant. So tolerance seems to be an unstable equilibrium, to put it in physics language. I actually agree with that. I think that it is an unstable equilibrium. It's like balancing something on top of your hand. And if you don't keep your finger moving underneath.
Very true. Democracy is the distraction. Institutions are the stronghold. Absolutely. I do believe Andrew Wilson is starting in the background an NGO. I'm almost positive.
It's going to fall off. You have to keep putting energy in to keep the thing up. But it's not, you don't get to set it and forget it, as the old ads used to say. But I think that we have to think very seriously about what we can and should and can't and shouldn't be tolerant of.
Oh, thank you.
And I have a thesis for where the line is. I call it the principle of reciprocal tolerance. If a faction appeals to tolerance in order to gain power, but advertises also that it will withdraw tolerance from the people who granted it power, you don't have to be tolerant to those people. Yeah. If they were empowered and they would take your tolerance away, we're intolerant of that, and that's okay. Tolerance and the intolerance and the specific purpose of the preservation of tolerance of the tolerable is, in fact, the principle I think that we could describe to. But I believe in the American experiment. I believe that it's actually been functional. I believe that I've just never heard of a country. Your national identity is an experiment. Do you understand why people are done with that mentality? Because we do feel like we're being experimented upon. It has fallen short and put us into this moment of doubt. This crisis of faith in Americanism comes from the fact that we are being blindsided by large intolerant ideologies that we didn't figure out, that have finally figured out a way actually to attack our system slower than others. America lasted against communism longer than others. Even against the Catholic. Lasted against communism. We have a communist mayor, and we have violence in the streets that literally led to the Civil Rights Act. What are you talking about? We never lost communism. In fact, I would say that we've been in control of Moo commies for what? It's got to be since Hart-Celler Act. And then you really see that presence in our institutions, including corporations, for a couple of generations now. So, I mean, they're here. They are here using this country for power. In other countries, sending money overseas to Somalia. I mean, from all areas, they're just ravaging our system. The Catholic Church got infiltrated. The Orthodox Church got infiltrated faster than the American system. The Orthodox Church got infiltrated faster than the American system. I believe them. But it's not invincible. And we've got to figure out how we draw the line. I think. Well,
let's talk about how one draws the line and how one enforces the line.
Excellent. How one draws the line and how one enforces the line. These are questions that I never hear James Lindsay asked.
Say that a good society is a high trust society, that people are drawn to Japan, where you can leave a cell phone on a bench.
Just take timestamps for the stream fist, okay? That was specifically to piss you off.
And come back 6 hours later, somebody's left it and cleaned it. That's a high shame society.
I was going to say, I actually said that on Twitter the other day very glibly, and I felt bad because some of my Japanese friends didn't like it. But somebody said, how do we get this society? Ted Cruz or somebody said, how do we get this society? And one of the prominent people, probably wasn't Ted Cruz. And I was like, centuries of shame so bad that any disgrace to your family would cause you to kill yourself.
No, because their birth rates are very low. The Japanese men, I've been to Japan, they hang their head very low. Okay. Too much, way too much shame. Is it orderly and clean? Yeah. Would I want to live there? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We don't. Yeah.
But we agree. A culture where your phone doesn't get stolen is better than a culture in which it does. A culture in which you can walk down the street unmolested is better than a culture in which you can't.
Yeah.
Those are objective truths. There's no mainstream ideology that says, we desire a world where you can't walk safely down the street and raise your family. We don't have it. We've had it. Now we don't have it. Those systems have broken. We can talk about, we can try to diagnose what caused the system to fail in the places that it has. But I think we would agree that there's an affordability crisis, there's an education crisis, there's there is, for the first time, real class division. Not the first time, the early 20th century, but the first time in my lifetime, major class division in the country, major racial division in the country. Again, certainly not for the first time. We used to have chattel slavery in this country, but for the first time in my lifetime, and has only gotten worse over the last decade, we have an enormous immigration crisis. We have an enormous drug crisis. We have a despair crisis, which I think may be the greatest crisis of all, particularly among the younger generations just entering adulthood. We have radical atomization. We have disruptive technology moving.
A despair crisis? You don't say. Let me put these captions on screen for my friend over here, Noel Ignatiev, who was a Harvard professor.
My concern is doing away with whiteness.
My concern is doing away with whiteness.
This is a form of racial oppression, sure.
Whiteness is a form of racial oppression.
The suggestion is that it is somehow possible to separate whiteness from oppression.
Okay, doesn't like white people, so what? Okay, so what if he doesn't like white people? Well, as you can see, this is Harvard Magazine. And in Harvard Magazine, in 2002, they published Abolish the White Race by Noel Ignatiev. Harvard alumni. Since 2002, that's incredible. You want to know what's cool? Is included in this article, you're going to see Derek Bell. Okay? Derek Bell, of course. Close ties with Obama.
Open up your hearts and your minds to the words of Professor Derek Bell.
It's anti-white is fucking institutional. Okay? Yeah, I wonder why. Generations of anti-white theory in academia, possibly?
Only compounds despair culture and isolation culture. All of this is happening. We have a $40 trillion national debt. Doesn't it require the power of government? Or maybe put a different way, doesn't it require power to fix those things? If I were to steel man the argument.
Now, Fist, here we go. Here's the question being asked. Power. The James Lindsay power question. Me and you have been divided on this ever since we met because of James Lindsay. It's the one thing we can't agree on. We can agree on God before we can agree on whether or not James Lindsay desires power and would utilize power, your position, or run away from it, my position. Let's see how he handles the power question.
Of the people opposed to Lindsayism. Isn't this the argument? Isn't the argument that
people opposed to Lindsayism? They're just words. Lindsayism. We should say that. You shouldn't be saying that. You're his friend.
Okay, fine. Well and good. America used to work. It doesn't. We're obviously in a moment of almost complete existential crisis on so many fronts, economic, spiritual. We're not replacing ourselves in terms of even having children anymore. Only power can solve these problems. The left used power to create these problems. Only power can challenge the left to correct the problems.
He's laying it on so thick right now. We've been, fellas, finally, we've arrived. How is James Lindsay going to answer the power question?
Well, there's two things you can say. I mean, so the problem, in my opinion, and I'm not a partisan guy, actually. I've never joined a political party. I've never been a Democrat, contrary to reports on the internet. I've never been a Republican. Sorry, President Trump.
I'll register you before you leave.
I won't even register as an...
So before he's going to talk about power, he's like, hey, just so you know, I've never been on a side. I don't do sides. Oh, okay. Why are you speaking on behalf of movements then if you're never on a side? It's Schrodinger's coalition.
Independent. I'm just completely unregistered. I'm a free agent in that regard. So I'm not a partisan character, but the problem in this country in many locales is that the Democrats specifically have misused power, often for very corrupt reasons. A lot of the drug and homelessness problems are due.
Yes, they lie, cheat, and steal to gain power. And they actually turn our politicians corrupt. Because once you're a politician trying to be squeaky clean, you see what they're getting away with. You see how they play ball. You see the swamp is very Moo influenced. Okay. So if they're not playing fair and you're playing fair and losing, then what do, James?
To literal like money wheels that they've created in order to create a complex by which they can throw money into the hands of their friends. Their friends can use the homeless.
Moos never do this with NGOs. It's the most NGO people that have ever existed. There's a Mooish NGO for every 593 Mooish people in the country. And those are just ones that there's a tax ID to be a Mooish NGO, by the way. That's just the ones that have a Moo NGO tax status.
Shelter to get tons of people to vote for the Democrat that throws money back into the hands of their friends. I mean, it's arguable that the entire state of California, actually, for one state, runs that way. It's like that's how the state actually works, and that's why you don't have a railway that got built because the money all
how do we stop it?
Other people's pockets, which I've called, by the way, the iron law of woke corruption.
Oh,
and I wish
nice.
more journalists would take it seriously, because if there's woke,
Nothing more a pseudo intellectual loves doing than making up a phrase. Oh, and don't worry. Jeremy's going to get on his knees and fucking throw James's balls off his fucking chin like they're fucking basketballs, dude.
smoke, there's corrupt fire somewhere underneath it, and it's worth doing some digging. You see something woke happening, somebody's getting paid off for some corrupt deal. I almost can guarantee it. But I digress.
Power.
So
you did digress, yeah.
The question is about power, right? The reality is, and what the steel man of their argument, or the piece of their argument that's correct, is that the wrong people are in power. But then the question is, let's suppose that we're able to get the right people into power.
Here we go. This is what I think, is that what if the wrong people get into power? And even if the good people get into power, how do we know they're always going to be good? It's a fear of power.
By whatever means, even. We'll just say, leave the means out of it. I think we should use constitutional democratic means, but we get the right people in power. There are two dispositions at the end of the day with regard to power. One is that you're going to wield it, and one is that you're going to be a steward of it. They're not the same thing.
Okay.
So this is another point in the Jeremy Boring Christian Ethics of America box.
Are you guys ready to cringe very, very hard right now? Okay. Are you ready for the crowd to go mild? Are you ready for a Jeremy who can't even help himself but to no-sell this fucking joke?
Which is, or maybe it's the Jeremy Exciting, I don't know, Christian Ethics box. That,
one more time. My balls are in my stomach.
Again, this is another point in the Jeremy Boring Christian Ethics of America box, which is, or maybe it's the Jeremy Exciting, I don't know, Christian Ethics box. That
Not Jeremy Boring. Jeremy Exciting. James Lindsay has the charisma of a fucking prolapsed asshole. He's really gonna get. Is this supposed to like replace CNN? Is this the transitionary period for like Gen Xers to Boomers? Is that? It's not. This is not for young people.
The Christian model of how you negotiate power that's in your hands is that you are a servant. You are using that power to bring glory.
A servant to who, James? Do we see why? Putting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? That the people in power are always expected to submit to Christ, right? You are not worthy of being submitted to until you yourself submit to Christ, would be the prescription, I would say.
To your duty to God, which, by the way, is dependent on your religious liberty, which is dependent on other things.
Dependent on your religious liberty. Right. Liberty to do what? To train the kids? They never rectify this. Liberty to sin, be degenerate. What else do you need liberty for? What does Christianity prevent you from doing that you want to do? I never get an answer for this from these fucking people.
So it's, do you hold the office that you have with the intent to use power as power, or do you hold the office that you have in order to serve a higher good that's actually a higher good to the best of your capacity? They're not the same thing.
You know who shouldn't choose? You, James. Whoever is making that decision shouldn't be you.
Having people in the offices, what is it? Personnel is policy, is a serious part of the issue. Having people in the positions that are vested with power is a serious part of the equation. But what do those people do is one important question. How do they use their power? And for radicals, the answer is clear. Lenin is unambiguous what the point of the state is. In fact, he calls the socialist state a semi-state. He doesn't call it a state, because he says in this...
Lenin, as in Vladimir Lenin. Let me tell you a little something funny about Lenin, okay? Now, Hassan, this is just AI. This is just widely available knowledge, okay? I've been covering how Hassan Piker has been subversive for a while now. It's no longer subversive. Hassan Piker is frequently associated with Vladimir Lenin and Marxist-Leninist ideology, though he often identifies publicly as a socialist to maintain a broader audience appeal. Does anybody on the right get that kind of fucking leeway, dude? If you just, AI even knows that Hassan Piker is a subversive Marxist-Leninist, and that dangerous Marxist-Leninist, okay, is talking to Democrats.
I do want to ask you, here we are in the midst of the midterms. You're someone who's been quite outspoken. You have made several appearances on a show hosted by socialist commentator Hassan Piker. Some of your fellow Democrats, though, have raised alarms about his views. Here are two members of a left-leaning think tank. This is how they put it. They wrote, quote, "No left-wing agitator is more influential and extreme than Twitch streamer Hassan Piker. He's referred to ultra-Orthodox Jews as inbred,
based,
employed anti-Semitic dog whistles, bloodthirsty, violent pig dog."
I'm just jealous that we don't get to have this kind of fun and be able to talk to politicians right now. Honestly, very jelly.
Against an anti-Hamas viewer of his stream, compared liberal Zionists to liberal Nazis.
I'll take it.
Said Hamas is 1,000 times better than the Israeli state. Now,
what has Nick Fuentes said that's that direct where he can't talk to a politician? What's going on here? Of course, Lily Cohen said this. Love it.
Hassan Piker says some of his comments have been taken out of context, but he largely stands
that was taken out of context. Can we ever just say anything was taken out of context? Do we ever get that get out of jail free card?
by them. Do you have any regrets about appearing on his show?
None, and I would go again.
Terrific. Anyway, that's why when we invoke Leninists, okay, people that believe in Lenin, right, follow Lenin, admit to following Lenin, admitting to hiding their Leninist dealings in subversion in society, can still talk to Democrats. Donald Trump had to disavow white nationalists over 50 times. When have you ever heard a Democrat have to disavow communists? Why doesn't Trump ever utilize that? Because it's neocons. Because neocons don't even want Democrats to have to really encounter that, because that's their power level.
This is in The State and Revolution, which he wrote in 1917, right before he took power. He says the state has two essential functions. Number one is it maintains class interests. It exists to maintain the ruling class's power. Number two, it exists to punish the state's enemies. The socialist state, he says, is only a semi-state because it does not do both of those things. It only does one of them. It only punishes the state's enemies. It has no interest in maintaining class
In
distinctions.
other words, punishing Goy. They just took the concept of Goy and applied it to a different category.
Goal is to eliminate class distinctions. Therefore, it's not even a real state. It's only half of a state. So if you, the argument that I hear from my opponents in the kind of hard right or woke right or whatever, is that they want to get into the positions of power. And it's very clear what, in many cases,
Hard archive is goated. Thank you very much.
this is explicit, that their motivations are revenge, that their motivations are punitive, that they want to punish people, that they want to destroy their enemies. I get told on a daily basis that I will be killed the instant they take power. I've been told.
I love this. I love this so much. As you're on the internet, just anything anyone does on the internet, he gets to immediately weaponize. That's how you know who has power behind them.
Destroy their enemies. I get told on a daily basis that I will be killed the instant they take power. I've been told a bunch of times, as a matter of direct fact, that I will be killed the day JD Vance takes power, which I find alarming. But I think it's also internet trash talk.
Which I find alarming, but I also find internet trash talk. So now he gets to gain the sympathy of his base by going, they're trying to kill me. Can you believe they're trying to end my life? But it's just internet trash talk, so I don't care. But they're trying to kill me over here. But I don't really care. It's internet trash talk. Schrodinger's death threats.
And nonsense. But I've probably heard this 1,000 times. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. 1,000 times probably in my DMs and my replies on social media. It's probably all garbage.
Deserved every single one of them.
But specifically, they're going to punish me for having resisted them. That's not being a steward of power in a good and
so now this is tied in with a steward of power. These are the people that are going to be in charge on the right. Very interesting. Has he ever seen what Moose say in defense of him? Because that switched me right there. That made me believe all the Jaceburgers after the Douglas Murray interview and seeing how Hardy was sweeping for him. The moves are crazy, what they say in comments. I mean,
high trust society. What I hear from them, to give them credit, Patrick Deneen, for example, philosopher at Notre Dame, Catholic integralist, wrote the book Regime Change.
Doesn't claim that label, I don't think.
Has he abandoned the label? Or
he doesn't claim that label, I don't think. Jeremy's trying to coach him. He's like, dude, this is not, you're not even remotely close to correctly identifying these people. Jeremy has to push back, and James tries to fight through it.
Give them credit. Patrick Deneen, for example, philosopher at Notre Dame, Catholic integralist, wrote the book Regime Change.
Doesn't claim that label, I don't think.
Has he abandoned the label or doesn't take it? It doesn't matter.
Take it.
It doesn't matter. Regime change.
It doesn't matter.
Why liberalism is
just like that. He gets unlimited respawns. It doesn't matter. Well, no, it does matter. This is why people send you death threats, because you say things about them that aren't true, and then you go, I don't give a shit if it's not true. I'm going to say it about you anyway. That's like the best way to get death threats.
Failed 2018, regime change 2023. Patrick Deneen openly says that the solution to the problem is that the people that get the power will operate with prudence and with virtue. And I'm just left as a good old boy American, like, how?
Yeah.
How? Tell me how it's supposed to work. Tell me how you're supposed to, okay, let's say
He's still talking about power, by the way.
King. How do you keep the king good? How do you make sure the king's son
How do you keep the king good? Good guys, bad guys.
Is good. How do you make sure the person there is good? This is what Madison was wrestling with too. And then maybe it's not the king. Maybe it's a Carl Schmittian unbound executive, which, by the way, is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. He has this whole book on dictatorship. Carl Schmitt does it. He writes in the 1920s. He says there's two kinds of dictators. One of them he models off of Abraham Lincoln, based entirely on the suspension of habeas corpus, which he doesn't even interpret.
Now, I couldn't help but notice there's really one of the most popular political Twitch streamers is a Marxist-Leninist who is talking to Democrats in positions of power, state representatives. Are there Schmittians, James, that get to openly call themselves Schmittians and actually affecting our political system, James?
Correctly, which is kind of funny. But this is what's called a commissarial dictator. So this guy, there's a constitutional order, everything's good, that's how it works, but he can accept himself in a state of exception or state of emergency from the constitutional order, assume dictatorial powers for the purpose of putting the country back into the constitutional order. The other kind is called a sovereign dictator. And that's what you normally think of as a dictator. We don't have to go.
What we're looking for, so when we talk about things that we like about China and Russia, okay, is that they can just get shit done. They can bypass the battle for power and their bureaucracy, and they can just get shit done. They can bypass things. They can now. Do we want to do it the exact same way as them? I don't think so. But we want power to be exercised, like getting these fucking illegal. We don't want like a million illegals to come in, and then someone else comes into office and gets rid of 100,000, and then someone else gets in office and another million comes in, and then so it's untenable.
Under the details, he's exempt from the order completely. The question is once the commissarial dictator, so to speak, decides he likes the taste of power he got, and then somebody says, sir, it's time to go back into the order. And he says, I declare an emergency against my power.
Yeah.
What mechanism is there to stop him from becoming the sovereign dictator? And the answer that people like Deneen provide us is he won't, because he's good. I don't believe in that person.
Yeah. Right. Now you know how we feel about the Moose, James. Dongus Riga, member for 7 months. Thank you so much. Moose, never integrate and want to be left alone. Model citizen. Non-melanated people want to be left alone. Evil. We showed that, I think, in the first stream with Eric Arval on Return to the Land. Dongus, $5. Thank you. People who don't let socioeconomics determine whether or not their violence occurs are objectively better than those who don't, but they won't go there. Well, we can never go there. Now's never the time to go there, in case you couldn't tell. New GM, $5. Thank you so much. This pro-democracy ninja is a I don't vote ninja. Am I the only one that caught that? Yeah, well, he wouldn't say, no. You're putting him in any camp. He's not even pro-democracy. That's assigning a title to him, okay? He's an identity without an essence, some would say. Searsite, $5. Thank you. Another coin that James Lindsay was right, Jar. He's always right, because he's never actually making a claim.
Cincinnatus. Yeah, Washington.
Yeah, you came up with 2.
Yeah, we're talking about century-long aberrations, or half a millennium-long aberrations to the human norm. And we're all going to live in the norm most of the time anyway. So, like, excuse me, I prefer this idea of this broken apart, divided powers where people are given stewardship by the people. Now, there's one other question about power, though, is the jurisdiction of power. This is a huge piece. There's actually
the jurisdiction of power. Guess who's really good at getting around the jurisdiction of power with NGOs and APAC?
my opinion, a lot of sleight of hand or sleight of mind, if you will, about this. You know, they say, okay, it's always down to power. It's either going to be we have power or they have power, right? And so we're going to order the affairs or they're going to order the affairs. There's always a sovereign, they say. Somebody always that makes a decision. I've been reading a lot of these radical right books. They're like, let's dispense of this idea of the people being sovereign. That's a lie. Somebody's always sovereign. Someone's always calling the shot.
Someone always is in power. Yes.
And then they give some examples. And the answer is yes, somewhere. But where? What's the jurisdiction? The point of the American founding was not that there would be no
Well, for example, for Iran, not them, we're in power, apparently. So, I mean, but you like how we're utilizing that. Fair enough. Okay. But
government. In fact, the Federalist Papers are arguing for a federal government.
For a robust government.
And a robust one.
Compared to what the anti-federalists
Correct. What they were arguing for is a minimal interpretation of the jurisdiction of that government. The vast majority of things that the average person will do in their average day-to-day life are not regulated or looked in upon by the government. So what the argument is there's always a sovereign or whatever. It's all power, this power.
The more degenerate a society is and the more crime that there is, the more that there has to be government overreach. That's why the communists like to worsen the material conditions to further accelerate their revolution, James, okay? In a polite, majority white Christian society, Christian area, okay? New Hampshire, for example, it's a lot less regulation when the people are more self-sufficient.
Well, what they're actually subtly really arguing for is an expansion of the jurisdiction of government. The jurisdiction of the state is looking in your windows to make sure you're not eating the wrong foods or sleeping with the wrong person or doing whatever it is, the night watchman model. And it's that expansion of the jurisdiction of government that I think becomes...
I'm just going to reaffirm this. James Lindsay is not wearing a toupee. Okay? That's his real hair. It's not a toupee. We never see his hairline. That's not a toupee.
It's a snowball that takes us into a bad place every time.
There's a little bit of a cause and effect there that I'd never thought about until listening to you talk right now, which is, you know, if we always think of, say, the sort of feudal model, you have a king and then you have the people, and the people, you know, are very low. You know, the king has his palaces, and the king has his wealth, and the king has his armies, the king has art, and the king has literature, and the king has the people don't have any of those things. You know, the people move mud from one pile to the other, and that's what they are. And so my view of that has always been that the king, with his power, oppresses the people, and even that's probably even the rhetoric of the founding to some degree. But I wonder if even that is a little bit of a populist, revisionist way of looking at the problem. I wonder if the problem, if it's at least equally true, that as the state assumes power, the people abdicate power. In the same way that as we watch the executive become more powerful in our country right now, it's not that the executive is stealing power from the legislative branch. The legislative branch is giving up all the power that they ever had.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's very easy to let someone...
I think Jeremy's trying to explain to James, he's like, yeah, but like, you know, we're in power of Trump and look at what Trump is doing. So you're making, you know, we have to kind of sweep for his, like, the amount of power that he's using. He's bypassing things, being a good handler.
Someone else be in charge of your life. Like, we kind of all want the night watchman. I mean,
this is my socialism makes people stupid argument, actually.
Yeah.
Literally, and I mean it literally, because when the government's not taking care of problems for you, you encounter problems and have to solve them for yourself. So you're
right.
James, and I've been asked this recently, how do we solve the mass migration problem? James, how do we solve? We're not even allowed to defend ourselves, James. Like in California, someone breaks into your house, as long as they're running away, you can't do anything. You can't shoot them, can't kill them. You can't use lethal force to defend your property, James. Not very liberal, is it? So what do we do? James? What can we do? How do we take that into our own hands, James? When the assistant with the AGs, Attorney General, when they're letting criminals back onto the street that have murdered people, committed many crimes, how do you take that into your own hands, James?
constantly practicing ingenuity, your problem solving, analysis, etc., just for the everyday things that are coming up in your life. But when you're just waiting on the government cheese, so to speak, you're not solving problems anymore. You're not engaging in the problem solving dynamic that is the kind of activity of the human brain. And so, yes, as the state claims power, people tend to abdicate power because they believe it's just in the hands. I actually think this is a general weakness of the political right overall, just kind of trying to take a step back and looking, is they kind of always want that big figure, Trump or whatever, some political messiah who's going to come in and he's going to fix it. And the left has this advantage, actually, that they think that that's the corrupt system. Therefore, it's up to each of us to get involved, right? That's the low society model has that advantage that everybody thinks if we don't pull our weight, it's not going to work. Unfortunately, all they do to pull their weight on is overthrowing the system. They don't pull their weight and say getting a job.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Some would call it revolutionary. Some would call it intentionally trying to bring down the country, but others could call it unfortunate. Sure.
Building a home, building a better life.
If you have a system and the system ultimately decays into the state of our society today, the one that we articulated earlier, in which you have violent crime, rampant drug use, open borders,
all these things that don't happen in Israel for some reason.
People aren't getting married. People who do get married get divorced. People aren't having children. Even the ones who do don't have enough children to replace themselves in the society. Society have a completely corrupt educational establishment, as you sort of came to public prominence exposing. You have the despair crisis. You have economic uncertainty, particularly for the younger generation. If all of our Federalist Papers and Constitution and 2.5 centuries of self-government just led us to this,
I mean, this is the old country for no men argument, right? How good is your belief system if it led you here? Excellent question. And then here's the thing. The Lindsayites just go, yeah, see, Jeremy asked that question, and then they don't listen to James's answer because you can't listen to his answer because it's incomprehensible. And this is just what the left does.
I suppose the argument is, what good was your...
The Lysander Spooner argument, right? So this is funny because, first of all, we talk about the decay, the despair. We look at the bad. We compare it to maybe like our life. Most of us making these comparisons are looking back to like literally how we grew up in the 90s and making a comparison and saying, well, we didn't have all these problems. People were getting along, blah, blah, blah. And we were coming out of a huge economic boom from the 80s. There have been other times of massive challenge. World wars, Great Depression, Great Recession in 2008. The millennial generation, by the way, got kicked in the knees harder than the Gen Z is getting kicked in the knees for economic starting place.
And are now the richest demographic.
Correct. But to go online, you wouldn't believe that that's the case for 1 second. So there's a lot of lack of appreciation and gratitude for actually the good that we
It's so mooey. You don't have gratitude for what we've done for you.
still have. Like, it's not all, I hear this message all the time. It's not all loss, despair. But second of all, it's not that everything that we had led us to this point. There are some things that are likely.
James, do you know how rare it is? Someone could probably pull up stats on it for someone, let's say 25, that's getting a mortgage. Starting a family before you're 30 and having your own house. Do you know how rare that is now?
The kind of decay of a sprawling bureaucracy, the corruption problems, like I said about California. Then there's the problem, again, of ideological insertion and subversion, which we know has been operating vigorously, that we were on cruise control, especially since the late 1990s or early 1990s when we thought communism had died in the world. We've allowed things to fall apart that have to be mended, for sure. But it's not the case that, we're in this weird dark era or that things just fell apart. This is this kind of culturalist argument I hear a lot.
It's a very dark era, James. Dark with a hard R, buddy.
As a culture degrades over time and it needs a renewal. I think that culture is actually a lot less deterministic than the culturalist minds think it is. I think it's actually more reactive to what's kind of happening around it. But I agree, though, on the other hand, that what we do need is a renewal of faith. I think the renewal of faith. See, I find it interesting. This is very interesting to me because
our liberalism needs a renewal of faith. Interesting.
Death, despair, drug use, yada, yada, yada. We see with Trump that there are political solutions to some of these problems. In fact, a lot of them. Trump is, I hear like people whining online all the time. Well, Trump could deport all the, he is. It's a bigger problem than you think. This is happening, okay? It's like it's actually happening. There are a lot of things that are being fixed. Drug boats are getting blown up. Maybe you don't like drug boats getting blown up, but they're getting blown up.
Oh my God.
He's waging a war on multiple.
Can we all tell that he gets all of his information from like clickbait headlines on X?
Fronts to kind of secure what's going on in America. The bad relationship with Canada is largely predicated on him telling the Canadian government that they didn't fix their fentanyl into America problem, for example. So these things do have solutions. They don't move at the speed of podcast. They move at the speed of politics.
Well, this is my big gripe.
Oh, he hates podcasts so much. They hate the counterculture dissemination of information so much.
With the cohort that you describe as the woke right, the black pill community. One, I don't see where they use the moniker America First basically as a way of lamenting foreign intervention.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't.
Oh, I mean, how do the Moos use Judeo-Christianity? How do they use that phrase?
Find them to be America First because I don't find them to have anything good to say about the country whatsoever.
No, it's critical America theory.
It's critical America theory, which is.
I love it. Oh, I love it. It's critical America theory. This is a trans argument against nationalism, just so you know, okay? Their claim is that when you're complaining about your country, you're saying you don't love your country. Now, what do they say about your kid if they're trans? The left. These guys, by the way. If your kid's trans and you say, ooh, I want my kid to go back how they were because that's who my kid is, they go, you don't love your trans child. This is the same argument. So in terms of nationalism, we want to love our country again. We want it to be our country again. We cannot love this fake iteration of our country. So they are doing exactly what the Moos did with saying you're supposed to love your trans kid. You don't love your kid. It's not really my kid. It's acting like a completely different country.
A great phrase that you've coined.
It's kind of cheap, but it's funny.
It's cheap, but it's funny.
And true. That's right. It's funny because it's true.
Gotta pat James on the head for making a phrase.
But they also, so I don't think that you can claim to be pro-American if you oppose the founding. If you think that every accomplishment of the country, particularly in...
All right, dude. Hold on. Ancient Hybrid, $2. Who tosses more salads than James Lindsay? You gotta be a sexual degen in order to have this position. Adam Keeney, $10. Thank you so much. Lindsay found the one free breadsticks restaurant in Tel Aviv, and he ate them out of house and home, fellas. Sweet Lord. It looks like we're going to go over 4 hours today. This is the midpoint. Maybe even 4.5 hours, fellas. So I got to take a pee-pee, a little 5-minute break, and then I'm going to come back, and we're going to do an extended cut. I will leave you with a James Lindsay video in the meantime. Give me 5 minutes. So, fellas, we're going to watch an intervention for James Lindsay.
Hey, folks. Welcome to this very special Dark Horse intervention. I am, of course, I'm Brett Weinstein. I'm sitting with James Lindsay, the subject of the intervention. And I'm, of course, also sitting with Mike Nana. Welcome to both of you.
I'm feeling like this is a setup.
Well, yeah. That's the only way this works.
Calling everything, including an Arby's sandwich, woke right.
But then we have James Lindsay had a tweet, of course, which he deleted. What was that tweet? Well, it was him being outraged about the same tweet. Woke right nonsense is bull. It is a complete psyop. It is a pathetic attempt for people who were once popular to try and get popular again. This idea, this woke right terminology that James Lindsay has been desperately trying to make a thing, that Jordan Peterson has desperately been trying to make a thing. It's not a thing. This single Arby's beef and cheddar, or ham and Swiss, has completely destroyed the woke right narrative and the leftoids.
His friend Brett Weinstein will be handling him with kid gloves, as I will be removing my gloves, exchanging them for bowling balls, and dilapidating James's cranium. Many people have gone through stages toward coming to terms with James Lindsay's departure from reality and the death of his academic legitimacy. Some are still in denial. Others are angry if you bring it up. Many are bargaining and still trying to give James good faith and charitability. Only James is depressed. And most people on this channel have accepted his descent into the Lolcow Hall of Fame. I, however, am at a different stage. I'm at the stage where I embolden a dissident right-wing movement by supporting everything that terrifies James Lindsay. Just like how people walked away from the left into centrist spaces. Well, take a look at that, fellas. Since Lent, your boy Ardy doesn't have to rip a heater. Would you look at that? What we call that in the business is baby steps. Let us continue.
That you can claim to be pro-American. If you oppose the founding, if you think that every accomplishment of the country, particularly in the last 150 years, was actually a sin, that every...
Or fake.
Hands that heel in the chat, fellas. Thank you.
Like the moon landing.
Like the moon landing. Or if every national calamity was deserved or also fake to advance some oppressive agenda.
They just sound like Howard Zinn.
You don't like the country. There may be some hypothetical country called America that you like.
An ideal.
That's right. But you don't like the actual country.
Which, by the way, is the definition of a critical theory. Max Horkheimer invents critical theory in 1937. He gives an interview in 1969. It's in German, so I have to kind of paraphrase. And I don't speak German, so I read the subtitles. And I have to paraphrase those anyway from memory. But he says, he gets asked, why did you invent the critical theory? And he says, well, what we realized, two things. Number one was Marx was wrong. He thought capitalism would immiserate the worker. And in fact, it allows the middle class to come into existence.
We're just stuck. He just can't get past Karl Marx. He can't get past it.
And gives the worker a great life.
Right.
So Marx was wrong about something very important there. And secondly, he says, what we realize is it's not possible to describe the ideal society on the terms of the existing society, but we can criticize those aspects of the existing society that we wish to change. And the reason you can criticize them is because they don't match the ideal, which you can imagine, but only in negative terms. We don't know what perfect America looks like, but it's not racist. We don't know what a perfect America looks like, but white people don't have to work at Panda Express, etc.
Can you just show me who you're referencing, James? It's a fucking crazy homeless guy.
Pull off of some different things. But this is why I agree with you. And what we're actually talking about is a collapsed faith in the American experiment and the American project in America itself and in these United States. By the way, you'll hear these people all the time talk about they love America, but you almost never hear them say they love the United States as a country because they don't love the United States as a country.
What is the difference between America and the United? Oh, James. He's about to turn up the tardation, fellas. Get your helmets on.
Country. But we live in a weird time because there's all this negativity, this collapsed faith.
We live in a weird time. You think? Kids are getting their fucking dicks cut off. The men are looking like women. The women are looking like men. We're allowed to make fun of white people, but you can't make fun of blacks or moos. I'd say it's getting pretty crazy, James.
And yeah, it's like we live in the book of Numbers. I'm not kidding. It's the weirdest. As an agnostic, it's like super a lot to chew on because we're going through.
Of course, he loves the book of Numbers.
An age of miracles.
Yes.
Like I go out on a walk virtually every day, contrary to the internet's belief that I never exercise. I go out exercise every day, and
Okay, are you guys ready for James Lindsay's schedule every day? Are you ready? It's less than what you think. This is what you would say to make fun of him, and this is what he's taking time to say at a home game.
Contrary to the internet's belief that I never exercise, I go out exercise every day, and the weight is what it is. And so
he goes out and exercises. So he goes on a walk, is what it sounds like. Interesting.
You know, welcome to middle-aged boys. You'll get there. So I go out on a walk, and I end up just mulling this stuff over a lot of times. Like we were talking at breakfast this morning, and I said my job is basically to read and think. Right. So I read.
His job is to read and think. This is why I say he doesn't make money. He takes money, okay?
I go outside and think about it and walk back and forth in my driveway and send mean tweets.
So he paces back and forth in his driveway and sends mean tweets. But he's outside thinking, okay? We've already studied the habits of his posting on X, okay? I think it's maybe 6 posts an hour. So every 10 minutes, but for 24 hours. Like, not including a sleep cycle.
That's more or less my day, my work day, most days, podcast here or there. And so I think about this a lot. Like, we live in the book of Numbers. Well, actually, Exodus through Numbers. Yeah. Numbers is the point.
Seas are parting all around us.
We live in an era of miracles.
Quick reminder, Jeremy's forehead is not getting larger, and James Lindsay is not wearing a toupee.
Okay, people are like, what miracles? Well, Butler, Pennsylvania for a second here, right? I've never seen something kind of more obvious. The survival of Israel against the entire world turning against it is hard to deny, right? And I even read, yesterday, I read John Winthrop's, that's an American, not an Israeli, by the way, 1630 Dream of a City on a Hill, which is a prayer he gave in 1630 in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And he literally says in that we'll know that the God of Israel is among us.
Wow, is that what somebody else said?
When we as 10 can resist 10,000 or something like that, that a few of us can repel a giant army. Like that's exactly what the scripture says. Okay. So,
okay. Israel is okay. The United States, Israel is the United States. I mean, we've been paying for them to be a country. It's the most bipartisan issue. The left and right don't agree about anything except for funding Israel for the entire time Israel has been in existence. We've been giving them $3 billion a year since 1948. And that's just what's on the books. No matter who's president, no matter who's in charge.
You like Israel or not, it's like you kind of have to. I have people come to me and they say, James, if Israel's not evil and corrupt, how could they win a front on 8 wars? And I'm like, God, like maybe the thing.
It's God.
Maybe I'm an agnostic and I'm the one saying, why don't you read your Bible, God? Okay, but
he's so unlikable. You're God that I don't believe in, idiot.
Let's get a little more prosaic. Age of miracles, Omicron. So we're in the midst of a global pandemic. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes variant after variant. It's the scariest thing. Everybody has to change their whole life over a variant.
Okay, so James Lindsay is going to say that the Omicron strain of coronavirus, that is proof of the Mooish God. I believe he's going to say that. I hesitate to claim what he's about to say because I can't believe it, and I think I'm retarded. Let me know if that's what he's saying.
Then one emerges that's hyper contagious, hyper not deadly, and confers immunity. It just derails the entire narrative that they had about the virus.
It was an actual Deus Ex Machina.
It was. And the funny part is there's, I don't know the truth of this, is all conspiracy theater, but it's like there's a plausible argument that it was another lab experiment that got loose. And it's like it's like God turning what was made for evil to good. And it's like, people dispute me on that one, but I think that was a miracle.
Well, I think coronavirus was heavily overblown in the first place. And then the resulting variations, it's much like the flu. It's like an experiment. Hey, let me put it in terms you can understand, James. It's like an experiment, okay? It's like the great corona experiment that we all had to go through. And it was like a bad flu. Even Sam Cedar, and I made a video on this, said the numbers were like 2.5 times worse than the flu, is essentially what it came down to.
Like, I literally do. I think Omicron coming and disrupting their whole COVID-19 agenda borders on, the kind of thing.
Did it disrupt their agenda? No, because they're in power, James, and they continue to lie about it.
I think about it this way. If we were writing down the times that we lived through in biblical language, what would it look like? And it's like, this is looking like, Elijah showing up or something. And speaking of that, you got Trump taunting Iran like Elijah, like praise be to Allah. But no, it's one after even the.
See, look at that. 0 flu deaths during COVID. That's God right there, fellas. Okay. What else could that be? A manipulation of the fucking statistics, possibly?
Evil that befell Charlie Kirk is turned to the unmasking of this. Now, apparently, it's more and more convincing that this is a coordinated attack on President Trump's administration from within. And it seems that the circumstances following Charlie's murder have spelled this out. So I'm not saying, of course, that the miracle is Charlie being murdered. God doesn't work that way. I'm saying that which was meant for evil can be turned to good. And so the point is, from Exodus through Numbers in the Bible, you just have miracle after miracle. The Israelites are
James Lindsay could easily be a Protestant.
Traversing the desert. They're escaping Pharaoh. They're Red Sea, all the stuff, the manna from heaven, all this. And then they're whining, moaning, and complaining by the time you get to Numbers, a couple books further down in the Bible. They're complaining. Oh, I want to go back. We had cucumbers. We had goats or something, whatever it is. They want to go back. Cucumbers is the one that sticks out. Charlie Kirk used to tell me all the time about how funny it was that they wanted to go back to cucumbers. They want to go back to slavery for cucumbers, but for comfort. Yes. Knowing what your day-to-day looks like, knowing when you're going to get
we were slaves again in Egypt.
That's right. And so God is like, I've had it with this crap. No whiners, right? No panicans is basically what he's saying. No panicans. And, but he says to Moses, I've given them signs, 10 signs, he says. I've given them 10 signs, and yet they complain. I'm not letting them in the promised land. And this is kind of the moment I feel like we're having all these things that it's like, holy crap, how is this happening? How are these things happening? And then we can acknowledge them and be grateful.
Now, hold on. The closest I have seen to God intervention is Kyle Rittenhouse. Not a single wasted bullet. He didn't harm a single innocent person. And he cleared a fucking gun jam on his ass and still didn't kill Gage Grosskreutz. He fucking shot the arm that was holding the gun, okay? if you gave anyone that handles a gun very often to fucking do all of that, it's very unlikely you'd be able to do it.
For them and kind of ride with it. As you know, the command in Psalm, was it 118, is this is the day the Lord has made, rejoice and be glad in it. If it's the day that something really bad happened, this is the day the Lord has made, rejoice and be glad in it. It's like that's a duty. If we adopt that attitude, the promised land is on the other end and part in covenant. This is Winthrop's point in 1630 also. If we do the right thing in America, he says, the God of Israel will be with us, and we're going to be an example to Massachusetts, will be an example, Boston will be an example to the entire world of what's possible. And so this is an amazing time that
I feel like James Lindsay takes the idea of a religion and then espouses how his brain thinks of how a religion works.
we live in. But what we have to do is acknowledge and be grateful. We have to take the good and savor. We have to fear not.
Yeah.
And
lift up now thine eyes.
And to believe for America, we are in legally a secular nation. So in America, the idea is that we are going to believe in covenant with liberty. That for us and our posterity, the blessings of liberty.
I'm sorry. Best mod in the world, fight me. Arden Party says, James Lindsay supposedly has a blue belt in BJJ. I'd love to know where you're getting that from. Now, there have been allusions to that. I did cover James Lindsay's martial arts history in a video.
Liberty can be bestowed, but our end of the bargain is responsibility, is faith, is belief that it can work, that doing the right thing, taking responsibility, sucking it up buttercup a lot of times matters. And in more prosaic terms, very simple.
Hey, Moose, suck it up, Buttercup. People are going to disagree about the holly. Shut the fuck up, pussies. Shut up. Suck it up. It's just words. Stop fucking crying about it. Yeah, this works.
Terms. I tell some of the younger people I talk to this sometimes. Okay, stuff sucks. Let's just concede your whole piss and moan, but no, like.
Yeah, it's just stuff sucks. This guy is speaking to boomers. Okay, so I think he's trying to appeal to boomers, older women specifically. Is he trying to take the the CNN airport crowd? How the only people that watch CNN are essentially in the airport. So that's a dying media. So then they're trying to take over that, but for the kosher right, I believe.
Crybaby position. Stuff sucks. Stuff has sucked in the past, but we don't have to play a comparative stuff sucks game. Stuff sucks. You have two choices. You cry about it, or you do the very best you can with what you have. This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it, and be fruitful.
Now, of course, this is coming from James Lindsay, who, to his own admission, paces back and forth in his driveway for a living, thinks about things, writes them down, and argues on X, okay? Imagine if I lectured you about work ethic and suck it up, right?
Multiply, double your talents, etc. Now, just like you said with the millennials, 2008, everything crashes. They have a really bad start coming out of college. Now they're the wealthiest generation. Okay, you have two choices. You can piss and moan and cry about it and hope things get better and beg the state to fix it. Or you can start doing whatever you can to get a vision, get a job, get a second job,
talk to Israel.
What it is, work hard. And I get it. It's not fair. Life's not fair. It's not fair. But in 5 or 6 years, it's a pretty good bet that.
And here's the issue, James. People have tried what you're saying, and in 5 or 6 years, right? It's harder to get a job being white because of diversity quotas, okay? People are getting bought out of their neighborhoods because of all of the immigrants moving in, which get preferential treatment over the whites. So people are already at the end of the 5 or 6 year cycle, James. It's very insulting to hear that at this point.
Things are going to be different some ways or others, and some of them will be better. And if this situation starts to get better, the people who cried are going to be working for the people who started building.
That's right. The future is ours to build. This is sort of the most fundamental Jeremy. If there's a fundamental Jeremy message, it's you have agency. And you can do.
So that's my vision for society.
Yeah, the only way that I talk about people having agency is not committing violence. That's where you have real agency, okay? It's your restraint in these very bad conditions right now, okay? Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt anybody else. You have agency. Don't do it, okay? I've been close to doing it, all right? And I'm glad I'm still here. So that is your agency, I would say.
Society is the organic society built by agents. I don't have a vision for what society is supposed to look like with the platinum scepter and the steel sword dictating to us what society is supposed to look like. I want to get corruption low. I want to have high trust society. I want to have truth, justice, and the American way. And I want to let this organic society of
Is he running for office right now? These are all fucking platitudes.
agentic builders build a society worth living in and to live in it.
So see, this is a beautiful vision. And you and I have met before, but only briefly in the past.
Just to remind you fellas, I could pull it up somewhere. Just 5 or 6 years, guys, things might get better. Someone on his side, a Lindsayite, the lady that did Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. I've made fun of her for being a stupid fat pig, and she blocked me. I forget her name. She asked James, like, so, like, what do we do? Like, what can we do in like the next 4 years? And James was like, you really don't know what you're talking about if you think it's going to be the next 4 years. He goes, in the next 20 years, hopefully we can change legislation. He loves bureaucracy and things and nothing changing.
But we've had a lovely breakfast this morning and a nice conversation. And I found you.
Here we go, fellas. I could have shown this to you earlier, but only the real ones deserve to see this part. This is where it gets really good. Now Jeremy's going to go, James, you're so nice in person, okay? Why are you such a dick on the internet? The question that everybody wants to hear. And James's behavior on the internet is completely indefensible.
To be charitable in all of your ideas. Online, you're kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. You pick a lot of fights. And
I mean, if Matt Walsh...
He picks a lot of fights, meaning he starts fights with people. Be different if he was defending himself.
You're kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. You pick a lot of fights. And
I mean, if Matt Walsh can have a character, I can have a character, right?
What does that mean? He is... You know what? James Lindsay's wife is a pedophile. She is having sex with a child known as James Lindsay. Okay? And the reason why James Lindsay has a stepchild is because he can't make a kid because James Lindsay is a child. His balls don't make cum. Clear liquid. Maybe just the semen. No sperm's coming out. James Lindsay is a fucking child because his answer was, well, Matt Walsh gets to do it. I mean, that's how a child speaks.
Those two characters can't coexist.
No, they don't coexist. They go together like fire and gasoline.
Why be such a pugilist online?
Oh my God. Okay. All right. James Lindsay's behavior is being described as a pugilist. A pugilist is someone who fights with his fists for sport. That's how we're going to sweep for James Lindsay's behavior online. He's a pugilist. All right, Ardy, you're streaming. You're not in the Discord. You still have to perform for the people. Reel it in. Okay, he's a pugilist. He's fighting with his fists for sport on the internet. Fights that he's starting, by the way.
Let me put it to you slightly differently. Politics is coalitional.
Mm-hmm.
In order to achieve victory, we have to win people over. We have to have a side.
Mm-hmm.
It is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
mind you, he says it's a coalition, fellas. Okay, a pugilist. Oh my God, I'm starting to lose it. Fellas, I'm past 2 hours. I'm getting loopy. So we're going to bring up the idea of a coalition. Now, James Lindsay is a part of not a coalition, as we're going to find out.
Do we have to police our team? You get no disagreement from me.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when the bench is clear, you have to clear the bench on behalf of your team. You devote a lot of energy to fighting the sort of internecine battles on the right. And you fight them in a very particular way. Yes, you fight them quite often with...
He fights them in a very particular way, the sweeping. This is the pushback from Jeremy right now, okay? And are you ready for this glaze job? Because he just gave... You got to use kid gloves with James, okay? He is their strongest golem that is never off the clock. He never has to rest. He's defying scripture, okay? So, of course, he just said that you're a pugilist online, which was the negative criticism of James Lindsay. And so how are we going to bring James Lindsay back to listening, the golem back to listening?
Rhetorical flourish. You've coined some of the great phrases.
His rhetorical flourish and some of his great phrases. Go ahead, glaze the golem more so I'll listen to the criticism.
In the so-called Civil War or podcast war, so much of the language you've personally created. But you also represent an attitude, and the attitude is one that's very harsh. And if we were to
and your attitude's harsh as far as we're going. Okay, Jeremy, let's see if we can push a little more back.
Use Matt Walsh as an example, someone who I know personally, and Matt Walsh has done as much to defeat the excesses of the woke left in this country as anyone. It's very easy now to say this is one problem with political victories is they always feel inevitable and they seem impossible going in and inevitable in retrospect. Matt Walsh is the reason more than dozens of states have banned child genital mutilation as a right response to gender dysphoria. Matt Walsh, that's a jewel.
So now, in James Lindsay's brain, he's glazing Matt Walsh, and James Lindsay doesn't like Matt Walsh. But what he's saying is undeniably true. So listen to this cope from James Lindsay.
It goes in his crown forever. He did more than any other person to bring attention to that issue, to advocate for the issue, to do activism on behalf of the issue, and he succeeded. That's it. It's one of the few giant cultural victories of our time.
I don't know if he did more. I mean,
I don't know if he did more.
Work with a lot of grassroots people who are pretty incensed about that claim.
I worked with a lot of grassroots people that are like, nah, I also did more. And Jeremy's like, no, dude, I know this guy. He's a Daily Wire guy. We could all see what he's done.
I'll argue with him.
He had a huge platform from which to be able to do the thing that he did.
A lot of people.
So James Lindsay is invoking the privilege argument. He was in a position of privilege, okay? So that doesn't count.
A lot of people have huge platforms, and they use them only to enrich themselves. Matt Walsh used his platform to specifically target this evil and see it eradicated in public life. Chris Rufo is someone you've quarreled with.
And so he quickly changes topics. Chris Rufo, who I showed at the beginning of the stream, Gollum number 2. Chris Rufo, very mad that he cannot have the Gollum hood of James Lindsay.
Chris Rufo, there are distinctions between your politics and Chris Rufo's. And I break on the side of your politics more than I break on the side of Chris Rufo's politics.
What politics are you referring to? What? What is it? What do politics even mean to these spellcasters?
And yet, Chris Rufo's done as much or more than anybody in American public life to take on DEI within the institutions, to actually expose it and to root it out. And he's scored victory over victory over victory on behalf of your team. And yet you lump him in sometimes.
It's not like James Lindsay can't contact them personally or have a mediator and talk to someone that's close to them. I don't know, talk to Susie Chauffeur. I just talk to Muzi. But no, he just immediately spurgs. And they all have to defend it for some weird reason.
The same category of the woke writer. You quarrel with him very publicly. I want to understand.
I mean, he did say he wants to use a Gramscian model, which is literally the Western Marxist model.
Right. So it's like purity testing. It's like no matter what someone does, as long as they do something you disagree with, then you're allowed to attack them like a foaming communist. Got it.
To advance his cause. And he...
Listen, I call myself on this channel Law Alinsky, okay? I've actually used leftist tactics in terms of content creation. I've shown on stream exactly which tactics I've used and why I use them and how you can use them ethically.
Adopts the thesis of... not just Christopher Caldwell, who am I thinking of? The managerial elite guy. He takes this thesis, which creates a new capitalist class. He's a former Marxist. I can't think of his name at the moment, which is embarrassing because there's a camera on. But
yeah.
If you can't think of his name, I'm not.
No, it's a common name. I'm just, one thing drives out another. I've been reading Nazis for weeks now. It's all I'm thinking about is all these different pieces.
Right.
But at any rate, I do have this problem where I think like every new thing I learn has to delete like calculus or something now, which is
just add some context for that. Do I have it? It looks all like I do. Chris Rufo responded to that by saying, I've worked with President Trump, DeSantis, and legislators in 20 states to deliver real-world wins on CRT, DEI, universities, and fraud. Of course, the moos create this problem, and the moos send people like this in to fix the problem to go, hey, trust Chris Rufo. But I guess that's bad because National Review writer James Burnham is somehow woke. This exchange is ridiculous. Here, James Lindsay is criticizing Christopher Rufo for pursuing the same objective as Lindsay. Lindsay doesn't like that Rufo has relied on Burnham as a former Marxist, even though Burnham is totally mainstream, dead NR guy. Oh, National Review guy. But Lindsay can't even remember Burnham's name. Love it. Eats his balls every day.
Bad. But he takes this model and he's like, okay, I'm a Gramscian. I tilt post-liberal. He is obviously at least...
Tilts post-liberal. Do you see that? That's like someone saying someone's Newtzy adjacent right? He's rape-ish, right?
Warmer than lukewarm to the Constitution. He's not he thinks that this anti-Jewish, anti-Israel thing is ridiculous and poisonous, and he's right about that. He's a bit late to the party, but I get it. He's doing coalitional politics, which, by the way, is the other side of this. Because the question is, why do I act like I do, right? And so
he's doing coalitional politics. James Lindsay isn't doing coalitional politics, but for some reason, people that are doing coalitional politics want to work with James Lindsay.
The coalitional guy is always going to be late to the party because he's trying to keep the party together in terms of saying, look, guys, we have a problem. I'm not saying I'm always right, but I do have a good batting average.
James Lindsay is saying he's not always right, but he has a good batting average. Quite a humble brag with Jimmy Concepts in person compared to on the internet. Wow.
And calling some things out. But anyway, he adopts a Gramscian model and then plugs that in with a class theory that has managerial elite versus question mark. And again, this book is the managerial.
This is the issue that James always runs into, is how he thinks someone's ideology will work and not seeing the negative aspect of it implemented. And this is the whole issue with the fake woke right.
Elite didn't define the proletariat equivalent. It only defined the bourgeois equivalent as the managerial elite. And then kind of Chris is filling this in with the bottom side is the populist, this conservative populist thing is the people versus the upper class in some sense. So it's like I'm a little hesitant on
the people versus the upper class. Okay, well, is he? Do you not want him? What has he? This is the issue with the woke right thing. It's like we see the issue with the left every day, all the time. I'm not seeing the manifestation of this danger of the woke right, James. That is the criticism. Is the night $5? Thank you so much. Lindsay just said we have to be in covenant with liberty. Can't be in covenant with Christ and an ethereal force of liberty. It's the first commandment. Wow, dude, you don't know. Ugh. Just listen to Lindsay, bro. Just listen to his 70-hour podcast on Mein Kampf, okay? So that way you can learn all about Oren McIntyre, if that is his real name. Thank you. Sear Site, $5, thank you. Point of privilege, he has a bigger platform, so I want credit. I mean, essentially, right? Nate Higgers, what the hell could that mean? $5, thank you. I can't think of anything funny or clever. It's not your fault, man. James Lindsay really takes the wind out of a lot of people's sails, and I'm sadistic. I'm masochistic, okay? For some reason, I love making people watch something they don't want to watch. I don't know what it is, but it's hilarious to me. Thank you, though.
On some of that, but these internet
my point is you being hesitant on it though isn't my.
But right. So
yeah, it's not you being hesitant on it, James. It's you attacking him on the internet in front of everybody, dividing a coalition.
I'm with Matt and Chris in particular. I'm watching where they fall on these different battles. Right now, I will admit I'm a little more aggressive with Matt because
I completely understand why you guys hate atheists and agnostics so much, the fake believers, because they have this just entitled sense of I just know, I'm just being objective, and I'm thinking he's on the wrong side. No one shows this preference-based moral better than Andrew Wilson.
Because I've just never particularly liked his style. It's just he rubs me the wrong way. It's a personal thing.
Very mature.
It's not totally fair. I'm a little more aggressive.
Terrific. Your wife's a pedophile and fucked a child if she had sex with you.
But I watch how they fall on particular issues. And is it like, are they tilting toward, if we put it in very stark terms, are they tilting toward the conservatives or are they tilting toward the Goypers? And
which direction are you going in, right? You have to mind read to know that.
It's just a little too often on a little too many things that are a little too clear. They either ride the fence or tilt the wrong way. And it makes me uncomfortable because part of what you deal with is subversives. They might just be slow to the party. They might be coalitional, but some of the people in our movement are subversive.
People like you, James, that are slow.
They are people who align with the bad guys, the real radicals who want to destroy the movement from within, the woke right or whatever, who won't admit it. And I don't know who those, we don't know who those people are. So
really, because me and Fist know who the moos are that we're talking about, and we show them all the time. And we barely even have to hypothesize.
why am I so antagonistic? This is a question I've been asked a million times. Number one is that I adopted this while fighting the left in a defensive way and in a strategic way, and it's just kind of stuck, and it's not really.
James, let me empathize with you. Same, okay? I come from fighting the left all the time, so I wanted to develop a style, all right, that was also aggressive and attacking, right? Now, when you read Saul Alinsky, right, you have to pick a target, freeze it, and isolate it, but you have to make sure you're choosing the correct target, okay? Now, how do you choose the correct target? Well, what are the grievances of the right? Well, there's a lot of anti-white stuff going on. Oh, who's been a perpetrator of that for a long time? The Moos. Okay. Yeah, I can't help but notice that the people that are defending the Moos don't really debate or have like good argumentation against all of the anti-white institutional stuff that's been happening. And so there's a way to like try and figure out like what a target is, like alienating the right people, I would say, right? I guess there's like, I understand his epistemology here. But he doesn't make money, he takes money.
Like, I kind of probably need to update my model a little bit.
You think?
But, you get in a rut, and then you're in a rut.
He always says what he's supposed to do and what he's going to do, and he never changes, which makes him the Jordan, fellas. You're witnessing the first dunk from the free throw line right now, okay? He's doing some, like, not unironic Harlem Globetrotter shit. Imagine if the Harlem Globetrotters were a real team. That's James Lindsay in the Lol Cow Hall of Fame.
The definition of being in a rut. But with the left, what I recognized was, first of all, it was psychologically defensive. They're nasty.
Psychologically
if I'm nasty
defensive.
back, I feel better. They can't get to me. But if I'm constantly charitable to them, they pick and pick and pick and pick, and they take advantage of your charity. And that was the key thing. What I noticed was that they depend strongly on people. They advance something in
Do we ever notice this turns into like a therapy session that James Lindsay should have had when he was 13? I'm being defensive and like, because there was just one time where this kid bullied me and I was like, you never again. So now when I think someone's bullying me, yeah, but what if they're not bullying you? Well, I know I'm defensive, so I think they are. Yeah, but then you're wrong over and over and over and over again. Yeah, but the Moos pay me. Oh, cool. Continue.
academic jargon, and they expect you to like, put your elbow patches on, and well, in 1833, and you're like very polite, and they're taking advantage of that. And I thought, and I'm talking like 2016, 17, I thought, what if somebody just talked back to them? And it actually worked amazingly.
Now imagine you applied that to the Moos, you fucking fat idiot. Oh, I'm getting mad.
This is why I say I need to update my model, because when you do this with the conservatives, somebody's pearls get clutched and then other people freak out, and it doesn't work. There's a different cultural dynamic between conservatives and the left, but nobody snapped back at them. It was all like Steven Pinker.
Yeah, and now look at the Moos right now that people are responding to them and making fun of the Holly. Yeah, I know, right?
Something like high-minded, let's debate this. And I was like, no, your mother is a crackerjack or whatever, and it worked. And so, when you have something that works, that's where you etch a rut.
I just want a woman to lay on me the way James Lindsay's breasts rest upon his tummy.
So anyway, there's that. And then there is the fact that the coalitional guy is always going to be late. There are subversive problems. And two things. One is, I don't tolerate that.
I don't interpret this. So with what I do, I don't say that the coalitional guy is always going to be late. There's things that the coalitional guy can't say. And so I can say whatever I want. And you might be thinking like, Ardy, like what coalition are you building? Well, why would I tell you about conversations that I have in private? People shouldn't publicly associate with me with the crazy things that I say. You don't think certain ears are hearing me and tapping me on the shoulder every now and then?
And the other is, my main objective is clarity. I want to know who's on what team. I don't actually care who's on what team. I'm not trying to build a coalition.
Well, but here's
a different object.
I'm not trying to build a coalition, okay? So why fight? Because it's a Mooish coalition. What else would it be? He's just objective, independent. Why would you? How is he so important to your cause when he's not even trying to build a coalition? He's fine burning bridges. He's telling you he's selfish and doesn't care, and he'll burn a bridge, and he doesn't care if you look bad because he's not building a coalition. I'm getting so mad right now.
I'm doing.
Let me challenge you. First of all, I think you and Matt are very similar, and one of the reasons that he rubs you the wrong way is because mirrors are often, off-putting. You guys both are attack dogs. When something comes outside of you go. And one reason that works when you're fighting the left and doesn't work when you're fighting the right, I would argue, is because you're of the right. You're not a Republican. I understand you're not a partisan guy. I understand that.
He's saying James Lindsay is of the right, and he's saying that so James Lindsay will listen to him. And it's a very watered down, actually loving the country definition of the word right. Because it's like talking to a schizophrenic. It's like, yes, James, there is a little man on the radio. Anyway,
You're not. We don't see eye to eye on God, which is the most important thing you can see eye to eye on. So like huge gaps, right, between you and where a lot of the right is, of course. But you're fundamentally of the right. You're fundamentally the right as we would define it in a certainly, in the we're Gen Xers in our lifetime. The left doesn't like America. The right does. The woke right also doesn't like America. That's a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
In our lifetime, the right has liked America.
That's right.
And you're part of the I like America crowd.
That's right.
And if you're part of the I like America crowd, being a jerk to the I don't like America crowd, which is in our lifetime historically the left, that works because they have cultural hegemony.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have cultural hegemony, they have glass jaws. No one's ever punched them before.
Yeah.
They don't even think that they're radical because everyone they've ever met thinks just like them. Because all the places
it's funny that he's saying this to James Lindsay's face when it's this true about James Lindsay.
occupy are so homogenous, ideologically homogenous. Some of them don't even think they're political. They think they're independent. They think they're moderate. While quoting Marx. Okay, so aggression is a great tool to use against them.
Yeah,
the right is different. The right has been, if there is an oppressed class in our culture, it's conservatives. In our lifetime, they've been.
Oh, it's conservatives. Is it a certain section of conservatives?
Ostracized by the culture, completely abandoned by the culture, or even just told that they're evil by the culture, which is one reason.
Conservatives, black conservatives were told that, right?
Young Gen Z white men in particular.
There we go. And since no one's coming to save the whites, okay, they're forming their own coalitions. Now, is it going to be messy? Absolutely. Have I thrown my hat in the ring here and there? Absolutely. Have I, for no good reason for the health of my channel, talked to Eric Alval? Absolutely. It's going to be messy. We're going to slug it out, okay? But no one's coming to save the whites, so the whites have to start building something, and they got to start building quick. And that's the reality of the situation.
Some of the problems that they have. And so aggression toward them actually triggers their instinct to fight. They don't have a glass jaw at all. They're counterpunchers. That's, I would say in our lifetime, being a conservative in part means being a counterpuncher. Like that's just part of what you are. And so when you punch a guy, so Matt, like you, has developed a lot of great skills for punching the left and showing that glass jaw. One reason you guys can't coexist is because you're punching each other, and both of you are only going to ever react to being punched by punching.
Don't you love it? It's both of you. James Lindsay goes out and starts these issues, and then the Gollum Wrangler is like, hey, it's both of you doing it. It's both of you. Come on, stop. Bro, how sick. Matt Walsh. Before he dies, he has to leave and do his own thing, right? He can't last where he is much longer, can he? Imagine that. Imagine having to take, on top of everything else, having to take James Lindsay's shit and they act like it's both of you doing it.
Bad. And so in that way, you're never getting toward anything common. And then I want to challenge one other part of it, and then I'll shut up. But I agree the coalition guys are always late.
Yeah.
Of course. Charlie was late.
Yeah.
Charlie was the great coalition guy of our time.
And bless him for his ability to see the best in everyone.
You want to know who's not late to a buffet? James Lindsay. Hi-yo! Let's go!
It's an admirable.
Yes, bless him. He saw the best in everyone.
But also
he helped bring us electoral victory in 2024 with that exact quality.
That's right.
But he also saw the best in some really sinister people.
Yeah.
Some people that Charlie thought were his friends. People that he literally died while defending have since his death revealed themselves to be not only as bad as the people that Charlie was defending against them said that they were, but in fact have proven themselves to be no friends of Charlie Kirk's.
Yeah,
it's a great tragedy that we've.
They love the friends thing. Dude, the whole Lindsayite sphere is based on friends. Are you my friend? They're not his friend. It's fucking playground shit.
Can play out right in front of us. So I understand that about the coalition builders, and yet we have to have a team.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have a coalition. And you say I like to use aggressive language to see which team people are on, but the problem is, not everyone has decided what team they're on.
You're right.
Sometimes people want to force the undecided into a camp because it's better to have them in the wrong camp and be able to fight them than to have them. But you can't win doing that. You don't win people over to your side doing that. And you don't win. I think there's you don't win a sort of moral victory in doing it. And so this is my James Lindsay criticism is only this. You are kind of, in many instances, you've been the prophet crying out in the wilderness.
Before he delivers the criticism, in order for the Lindsay Golem to hear what you're saying, you have to call him the prophet and the why. The prophet crying out in the wilderness. That's the only way he's going to listen to you. This is embarrassing.
Long before anyone else. I'm
fun,
sure that can be a very lonely place to be.
It's a fun job.
Yeah, I'm sure it can be a very lonely place. I'm sure it can be even frustrating when people finally do join your side because you're like, yeah, well, where were you 16 months ago?
I got over that years ago, actually. I'm just kind of...
James Lindsay said he got over that years ago. His woke right crusade started at the end of 2024. It's only been a year and a half. He didn't get over it years ago. He's actually complaining about it. Actually, I think he's about to complain about it in this very conversation. He didn't get over it years ago. There is no years ago. In 2024, James Lindsay went on Joe Rogan and it got 1 million views on YouTube. This is, without question, the most plummet of a fall from grace that will ever happen. I'm telling you, you have to realize how unique this is. This will never happen ever again. Years ago, 2 years ago, you were on Joe Rogan. You psycho.
Kind of happy they showed up now. As long as they show, the slightest amount of like genuine, like I messed up, 100%, like it's water under the bridge the second it's
but
there.
if the Venn diagram looks like this with Chris Rufo, and Chris Rufo is, we grew up a Marxist. Like Chris Rufo has some sort of vestigial.
Has to try and talk a little bit of shit about Chris Rufo so James Lindsay possibly understands. This is why I am rhetorically defective. You cannot coach your... I know many of you have encountered this with women in your life, okay? There gets to a point where you have to couch your language so much that the woman is not hearing what she has to hear. And you might be couching your language for like 2 hours, right? And at the end of it, talk to your boy and he goes, how was it? You went, good. It was 2 hours and we didn't fight. He goes, did she like change your mind? Did you like persuade her? And you're like, no, we didn't talk about it at all. You have to kick the fucking door open with certain topics. There is no way to talk about it. Like with the moose, for example, you have to kick the door open. Right now, none of this is, you can't placate someone's ego when you have to check their fucking ego. Okay? You have to kick the door open.
Post-liberal, if we want to call it that, I'd probably call it pre-liberal in his case, kind of ideas that I don't like.
Yeah.
He's a champion. He's on your team. How do you keep him on your team and make sure that we don't divide this thing so far? We haven't.
So that's where we diverge, though, is I don't know if he's on my team. If I knew he was on my team, it would be a different story.
What fucking team? You're not a part of a coalition. You're not a part of a voting bloc. Oh, we're going to test the limits of my TOS capabilities, fellas. How is he not being called out on that?
Mm-hmm. I don't know that he's on my team. And maybe I'm testing the thesis in the wrong ways. But so over a year ago, I think it was last April, so maybe a year ago, I actually came up with this metaphor. And it's like I was thinking, it's really weird what you think about sometimes. It's like I wasn't watching, I don't have this like idyllic story. Like I was at the park and there was these kids playing with bubbles. I just pictured the idea.
Fellas, who's ready for an analogy? He has given us the death butterfly, okay? Are you ready for the bubble at the playground?
You have when you like blow a bubble and it stretches and it stretches and it stretches from the film. And then you have that long tube of bubble and then boop, you have a bubble that floats off. And I was like, okay, that's kind of what's happening, right? And so right now
do we have any updates on James Lindsay's pedophile wife for having sex with a child? His analogy is like, okay, like you're trying to ask a question. He's like, okay, hold on. Let me put it in a way I can understand. It's kind of like a bubble. Yeah. And the bubble keeps getting bigger and it gets very, very big, but it's the same bubble, but a bigger bubble. Arrest her.
People that are over here, not in the bubble, that are conservatives. And then you have this kind of tube toward the woke right, which is the bubble vanguard. And eventually what's going to happen is it's going to pop off. It's going to float around for a little while. It's going to burst and everything inside is going to fall apart. I don't know who's in the bubble, who's in the tube, and who's on the way to the bubble and who's not.
He doesn't know. So usually when you make an analogy, there's variables. This is what the bubble symbolizes. This is what the thing blowing the bubble symbolizes. He doesn't know what any of it symbolizes. This fucking child is just thinking about bubbles. It's not an analogy. It's his imagination thinking about bubbles out loud.
In that thing at all. And I am a little bit okay with pushing some people because some of the things that are being pushed, like at least Chris is passing the really obvious moral test, really obvious moral test of, is leaning into anti-Semitism and blaming Jews for all your problems a good thing? No, that's
leaning into it, James. I'd say we're bringing that thing into the stratosphere. I'm thinking we're breaking the sound barrier, leaning into it.
that's a very low bar to cross. So, maybe he's a little bit in the tube, but maybe he's not very far in, and it's fine. And we can deal with that. If with Matt, after the whole thing with the kid getting called a racial slur and him like, let's raise this woman $1 million. I was like, oh my God. And a few other things. And then him like, I want to unify with anybody. And of course that's in the grief and shock of Charlie's murder.
A lot of us hit the same point Matt Walsh did after Charlie Kirk was murdered in front of his wife and children and in front of the entire world, leaving leftists to make fun of him. God knows how his kids are going to recover from that. Since then, we've heard about this, like this right, the far right, and Nazis, and you're like, those aren't the ones doing this. And so a lot of us had a breaking point after that. It's like we gave you Charlie, and now you're getting Fuentes, which was a phrase that was being said. Fuentes is duplicitous and doesn't have any actual coalition building at all whatsoever. But a lot of us are just like, yeah, I'm not afraid of any extremism on the right at all whatsoever after that. So you're not going to scare me with saying Fuentes. That's what happened for a lot of people.
With anybody, that's the thing everybody picks at him about now is like, Matt, just say you don't want to unify with the Groypers and we know where you stand. But it's like Vice President Vance. They won't say it. So there's these huge ambiguous points.
They won't bend the knee. They won't say it.
The only thing to do at that point is to either watch, it's kind of in dismay, or to be like the Velociraptors in Jurassic.
Yeah, honestly, Fuentes was fun for a little bit, but it's just rhetoric, right? And he's not building anything, and he just goes after people, and he's just so duplicitous. You can't be on his side because he's going to contradict himself in fucking 2 weeks from then.
Jurassic Park, sticking your face on the electric fence to find the hole, and they eventually, figure it out. And that's sort of been. I don't know they're on my team.
Well, I would only say that there's a third.
If I believe they were my.
You don't have a fucking team, you idiot. What do words mean? What do words mean in this conversation, Jeremy? Why wouldn't you say what team? You're an individual without a coalition. What team are you talking about?
Friends. It would be a different story.
There's a third possibility, which is that that people are in motion. And what you want is for them to be on your team. Maybe they are, or maybe they aren't. And maybe it depends on how narrowly we're defining the team. Maybe it depends on what issue we're talking about. Again, politics is coalitional. But in order for them to ultimately be on your team, they have to want to be on your team. And I worry that especially right now, especially when the cause is very virtuous, and especially when some people are so obviously not on the team. I mean, Tucker Carlson is engaged in a political project which is anathema to your political project. There's no question about it. Yeah. A person having sympathies for some certain of Tucker's arguments has not necessarily joined Tucker's team. Most people don't even, it's sort of what I said at the beginning of the show about the Catholic integralists. Most Catholics.
Can we just agree just the level of retardation to deny the friend-enemy distinction while constantly talking about teams? It's fucking poetry.
Are not integralists.
Right.
Most Catholics have never even heard of integralism. Those who have heard of integralism aren't integralists. The ones who are political and conservative may even identify as integralists, right. And even they aren't integralists.
Right.
And they may even, in a conversation with you, they may even reflect to you integralist viewpoints. And I'm not even suggesting that they don't sincerely hold them. I'm saying they don't actually represent the final analysis of that person as the conversation unfolds over time. Let's don't cut off the opportunity.
He doesn't care. He's not a part of your coalition. He's not a part of a coalition. He doesn't you would have to rectify epistemologically. You would have to rectify that.
Have common cause with those people and bring them into our fold as we go. Because again, on most of these political questions, I break James Lindsay. I'm part of the pro-America crowd.
Yeah.
I'm more alarmed about
the fact that Lindsay makes boring look less compromised is hilarious. That is a good way of putting it.
Anti-Americanism and a culture of despair forming on the right than I am the left. The problem on the right is a far bigger problem because I know what to do about the left. Punch them.
Yeah.
Go fight them. Go win.
I know what to do about the left. Punch them. We can't punch the left. Only the left can punch us. Okay? It's very asymmetric warfare in case you couldn't tell.
That's not going to win, or that's not going to carry the day over here. We're going to have to evolve some new techniques.
I agree with
on this
that.
side.
Yeah, the only difference here is like I get
You want to know what the new technique is? Criticizing the moves. It is what I'm realizing now is the ultimate litmus test. Remember during COVID, the Kyle Rittenhouse litmus test? That's how you could tell who could possibly critically think and who couldn't. Now it's criticizing the moves, and it's just age old. The age old question. All you would need from somebody is like, I haven't gone like too far into it, but like there's some stuff. That's all you need. Just even that. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. The capacity to criticize them is the new litmus test, and that's the new litmus test until I'm fucking worm food, motherfucker.
it. This idea of people being emotion, but the right wing has been infiltrated.
Yes.
There are subversive elements who have been who are for all intents and purposes leftists who have dressed in trad. And
yes,
for the last 10 years at least, we have not known who some of these people are.
Yeah, we know exactly who James Lindsay is, okay? We know all about his home life and everything. That's all out there for everyone to see. You know, James Lindsay famously very open about his beliefs.
I've decided nobody needs to know what my religion is any longer, and I'll never tell anybody again.
Thank you, James.
You can say Nick Fuentes is objectionable, for example. Pretty clear. He was the go-to example for what people were not, as a matter of fact, up until literally last fall. However, there's stuff like
spearheaded by neocons and the left. And then when we see that, James, you're going to hate this, Nick Fuentes was right again. You want to talk about someone that's been right historically. I know, but they turn into like the Alex Jones thing where like they were correct, but it's hard to defend how crazy they are. And then when they get a certain amount of attention, I don't know, man. I don't want to say it. I think Alex Jones, my FedDAR now has been sharpened since the last stream. It really is difficult to find people to trust in upper echelons of power that aren't compromised. It really is.
There was an interview that was done between Nick Fuentes and Richard Spencer in 2018.
Whoa.
Okay, so that's a long time ago. That's 8 years ago, which would put Nick Fuentes at under 20 years old. And do you know what they're discussing?
What?
Alexander Dugin's fourth political theory.
Shut up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is, nobody knew who that is. Nobody cares what that is. Of course, Bannon met with Dugin after he got kicked out of the White House in 18. Alex Jones had Dugin's book, The Foundations of Geopolitics, on his desk in shows in 17, sitting there. It is very plausible that these people weren't just dabbling and they were kind of fellow travelers, but actually that some of them have been long-term subversives.
Yeah.
And they have been doing it. And so the question, and the thing is starting in my opinion, 22, a lot more subversive started to be generated. A lot of, I bet, financial offers or professional offers started to go out. Hey, get with us. We're going to help you build a podcast. We're going to get you a brand. We're going to get you a network, whatever the deal, a book deal, whatever the deals are that entice people into these things started to go out. And because there was a massive shift in 22 toward a lot of these more radical visions, a lot of these prominent voices we had were kind of nowhere before 22, and they all started to emerge. I count those people also as subversive. So my problem is, okay, is Chris Rufo just kind of a pre/post liberal with some whatever? Or is he a cutout of some kind? Is Matt Walsh, was he enticed by an audience or was he enticed by an offer?
They always go crazy when somebody else is just asking questions. The woke right, just asking questions. Just asking questions, okay? But he's not just asking questions here, even though it's the exact same tactic they accuse others of.
You don't know about? I don't know. I would love to know. I would love to go back to finding Matt grading personally and supporting his work and championing the things he was accomplishing, as I did through the entire 2020s until recently. I would love to go back to just not liking him and it being a James thing, as opposed to, I don't know if you sold the hell out and I can't trust you and I'm really worried.
Do you think anyone feels like that about James Lindsay? I don't know if you sold the hell out or I can trust you.
And scared about it. And people need to be aware of it, in my opinion. So my view on that is, you must make common cause broadly. You cannot make common cause with subversives. And the only way to not make common cause with subversives is to expose them as subversives, because their job is to stay undercover as long as possible.
Yeah.
So this, I don't know. I'm not claiming I'm going about it the right way.
Sure.
Especially after the
that widget doesn't look like it works at all. Okay. So I was just going to try that out. All right, then.
Last 18 months and how this has all played out since fall of 24 with the woke right thing. I'm the first to admit I've got some psychological defects. I have got some spiritual issues, as I've referred to them.
Don't you love it when he's talking in these conversations? Now he's like, hey, I'm not perfect, all right? I'm not right all the time. Hey, man, I'm just out here calling as I see it, calling balls and strikes, man. I'm not right all the time. Hey, I got some problems to work on myself. But if you said that to him, he would say to Jordan Peterson, what is it? Psychological torture.
On Twitter, and I truly do. Like, I have some issues that cloud my vision. I'm not a impartial, neutral avatar floating above the world or outside of it. But I think that the correct model for the woke right was that it was a subversive movement or originating from outside of our actual circles, whether far right weirdo characters, whether leftists dressing up, whether people getting bought off or blackmailed into it or whatever, that put on a nice MAGA face through the 2020s after Biden got elected in particular, somewhat through the first term, after Charlottesville, actually.
Yeah, like changing their last name. Yeah, he's talking about Jon Stewart right now, right? How his last name was Leibowitz, and he changed it to Stewart? You mean masking like that? Is that what you're referencing, James?
Insinuated themselves into our movement.
Yep.
And that we're at that moment now, it's like the fungus has come up and
the fungus!
The fruiting body is appearing. And
here's the fungus! You want to know who's like a fungus? You want to know what people are like rats and a fungus that just won't quit, like a weed that just won't stop growing? Obviously, I'm talking about Uzbekistanians.
we all have to deal with it, but we don't know where all the mushrooms are.
But here's a good thing. The fact that, no one wants to claim this. Everybody's going to pretend that this isn't true, but it is true. Most of the people who voted for Donald Trump voted for George Bush.
Sure.
That's true. Most of them. The country on the whole that voted for George Bush, voted for Barack Obama, and then voted for Donald Trump, then voted for Joe Biden, and then voted for Donald Trump. That could be a very frustrating reality. But there's hope in the reality too. And the hope is that because people do move, they can move.
Mm-hmm.
And because they can move, we can move them.
Yes, of course.
And now that doesn't mean that you can move everybody. We live in a different moment today than May of 2025 when you and Matt Walsh were.
Imagine having a public conversation with James Lindsay about being persuasive after your only criticism about his online behavior was him being a pugilist. That forehead isn't growing. Same size forehead. I don't have an AI program that makes his head larger over time. That would be insane. James Lindsay is not wearing a toupee. I don't know how many times I have to tell you guys this.
Quarreling so much on X. In 2025, there were only subversives. In 2026, positions have been carved out. Tucker Carlson is not a subversive. Tucker Carlson is a guy who openly calls the state of Israel a terrorist state.
That's right.
Yeah, like how Ted Cruz openly says that he joined government to protect Israel. Right. A lot of the pro-Israel people, a lot of the semantic people, so to speak, yeah, it's not secret. They congregate and fucking record it, and we watch it on stream. Yeah, it's not a secret, Jeremy.
That's right.
Tucker Carlson's a guy who openly says that he, the left-wing politicians he admires most are the actual communists, like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And
yes,
it's very
clear.
clear.
You were saying, by the way, back in 19 also,
Correct.
But nobody was paying attention.
See, I was the voice crying in the wilderness.
Actually, yeah, that's right. Ben was actually the person who challenged Tucker on that.
If they're the voice crying in the wilderness, what would that make Nick Fuentes? Wasn't he really shouting from the rooftops his opinion that turned out to be correct? Odd how he's not included in such an esteemed analogy. Nady Higgies, $5, thank you. Did Dr. James Lindsay eat the shirt that actually fit prior to this interview? Hey, no, fellas, you just get older, okay? You'll know once you're middle-aged, okay? Even though Jeremy's older than James Lindsay and 50 pounds lighter. Leningrad, $5. Appeals to cultural hegemony is something Lindsay called out as woke before. Love it. Thanks for making me extremely mad by showing me this. I don't know why I'm like this, I swear. My mom did everything correct. I just ignored her. New GM, thank you so much for $5. We are like a special fungus. We help you see things they don't want you to see, man. He's special. He's a knower and a glower.
In 19,
That's
as a matter
right.
of fact. And then the person who answered Ben was J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance is a mystery. And
Is he really a mystery? He's not that much of a mystery if you listen to Nick Fuentes.
Some of the signs are very concerning.
Yeah.
I think he's also a politician, which is the only reason I say that he's a mystery. We don't know which way I've never seen a politician play it closer than JD Vance plays it.
Yeah.
There's some cause for hope, but there's also cause for concern. But Tucker wants to create, as I've been saying lately, he wants to create a new American majority that's broadly premised on left-wing economic populism, which is like traditional Marxism, not even in the way you use it. I mean, like economic Marxism.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right-wing.
Yeah. Tucker Carlson is all about economic Marxism. So apparently he doesn't believe in private property. This is delusional.
Social populism, which is why he defends people like Maduro or Vladimir Putin, et cetera.
Socially conservative socialism.
That's right. Socially conservative socialism, which is why he has common cause with the Catholic integralists who have a somewhat similar.
Exactly right.
I only raise it though to say there are people now who we can fight, and we don't have to make assumptions about what it is that they represent.
Mm-hmm.
And that in some ways puts us in a position today to use different techniques than the techniques that perhaps may have even been effective before that was true. In 2025, you were trying to figure out who the subversives are. Okay. But now there's actual targets to point at. And one way that I think we'll find out over time who the remaining subversives are is how they meet this moment when the math.
Meet the moment. I've only heard Kami say that, and I've said it in edited videos. Meet the moment. Right. Can you criticize Israel? Do you have it in you? Can you do it?
Is completely off of so many, Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, et cetera. And again, I think A, there's room there to evolve some of the techniques, and B, there's room for real optimism because
absolutely
you are seeing just in the last 10 days an enormous reorienting, I think, going on within the movement as people see what's been clear to people like you and even to people like me for some time.
Yeah,
people
I wouldn't say JD is questionable. I would say he's very fully compromised with, through Peter Thiel. Me and Fish just showed it on stream. I think the last stream where he rose to the rank of vice president pretty fucking quickly.
Did not want to believe it.
Nope, they did not.
And now you can't deny it unless you're willfully denying it.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I do. I'm actually very optimistic. I do have this sense of optimism. But I think that the story here then really is, it is the critical America theory thing. It's kind of junky. It's like a stupid word, but it's like it actually worked. It actually went crazy. Like,
oh my God, it went like so fun. Are you ready to hear like fucking viral? His like phrase went. Are you ready?
Viral for one of my like nerdy posts. My nerdy posts don't usually go very viral. And so like it got a lot of attention, this critical America theory idea. But you've
said two things lately that I've been super jealous of. And I was like, damn it, I wish I'd come up with that. Critical America.
And he's gonna glaze off of that, fellas. Oh,
theory.
Jeremy.
I've been saying it's critical theory on the right for a while. But critical America theory is it's just an absolute.
It unifies them with the left. That's what they're doing too.
And then the other one, which we haven't talked about, we may not have time, is you're pointing out that if you found yourself suddenly hating Israel since 2023, you've fallen for the greatest psyop since COVID. It's
I don't think they realize how many of their foaming Moo supporters came out of the woodwork to defend Douglas Murray, making the worst, and they all had Moo in their profile. This wouldn't have happened if they all weren't such proud Moos, showing how genetically sociopathic they are. But they really showed their white and blue after that.
It's beautiful. It's masterful.
I think it's true.
And it's true.
But
I interrupted you to compliment you after calling you 30 minutes ago. So.
I'll take it. Where was I going with that? Critical America theory. We basically, look, if we want to build a positive coalition going forward, positive coalitions, not to sound like Obama, are built around hope.
What do you mean? If we want to build a positive coalition going forward, am I fucking starting to lose?
They're built around a positive vision. They're built around wanting to see something happen and to be a part of making it happen, right? And so I think that this critical America theory framing is really good. Yeah. So the people who are going to come, like I said, I made a video and put this out on Twitter the other day where I'm like talking to the camera, like one-on-one, or one-on camera. I don't know what that's called. Like very personal. It's just James talking to the camera very awkwardly in his room.
You know when he occasionally does those videos, like the only time he actually does a video? No matter how much money he gets, how many people to help him, they're like, James, set up a camera, get a ring light, and talk into the camera. He is so lazy. He insists on doing the least amount of work humanly possible. It's incredible.
But the story was, look, a lot of people are getting wise to this woke right thing. They're coming back, they're seeing it. They didn't see it before. They're seeing it now. And a lot of them, some of them even participated. And so what? if they have a little bit of like humility and contrition, let them back in. But we watch for the subversives. That's the whole story. That's my view. So I think we should be painting this positive vision. We should compare it to the critical America theory vision that unites left and right. That's the horseshoe touching, except it touches Jews, and hating America is where the horseshoe touches. Okay, so we have the critical America negative vision.
You know, they've said for so long that like there's a divide and conquer strategy, and it's just incredible that no matter what side of the political aisle our very polarized politicians are on, they all agree to give Israel money. It's incredible. I wonder who's keeping us divided. James Lindsay loves to say it's the right hand of the left hand, the left hand of the right hand. Yeah, it's on a mooish body, you fucking idiot. Yeah, who do you think the hands are on the body of, James?
We have the build the future positive America vision. And I think we sell the one. And the people who want to come in and be a part of that, great, let's do it. We keep an eye open for the subversives. I'm particularly concerned about people who held positions of leadership, even if it's like thought leadership, not necessarily political leadership, who were subversive, thinking that they, like, if you want to come be a part of the movement, you know, awesome. You think we're going to put you, like, you get a really big show everybody watches?
How is he all of a sudden a part of a fucking movement, dude? It's like snakes not being able to hear each other's hisses and rattles.
No, nobody's ever watching Tucker Carlson again. And the positive, I don't care what you apologize for. Like, you don't get to have a show, like, go repent or whatever. This is my opinion. But you don't get to jump back into a position of authority where you're a year out of having abused your authority. Like, you got to earn your way back to that. Trust takes years to build.
James Lindsay is educating people on having to earn trust back. You can't write it. You can't write it. Here, look at how fucking worn down this man is right now, dude. Wowee. Let me explain to you about earning trust back.
Falls apart quick, and then you've got to build it back again. And you start from the same ground as before. This is my opinion.
You actually start lower, James. You don't know how it works. You start at a certain place, okay? And then when you lie, you start actually lower than where you were because they didn't know you were a liar in the first place. It's really hard to gain it back. That's some heavy redemption you have to do right there. You would start at the same place. What the fuck are you talking about? What's the penalty?
We should welcome these people back in. We should have a unvarnished positive. This is my other thing I keep saying. Also, you maybe haven't caught this one where I'm like, it's okay to root for your country. Yeah. It is okay to love America, to not apologize for America. This is the kind of stuff, bread and butter.
So this is just classic leftists where they have to tell you you're hateful. It's all they have. They have to tell you hate moves, you hate the country.
Trump, 2016. It's, oh, you don't have to apologize for America. You don't have to start off your statement with, oh, America, warts and all. Just say you love your country.
Yeah.
We do cool stuff. We just went to the moon again, baby. Let's go. Like that kid, the star of.
Update on his wife, fugitive at large, since she's been found out on this stream. James Lindsay going, we went to the moon, baby. Wow.
I don't know, the 4 astronauts, obviously, but then, well, maybe not the Canadian, but the three American astronauts.
Sadly, that Canadian's so likable.
He's really likable. He's up speaking bad French in space. Like, no, I'm just teasing him. It's really amazing. But no, that kid, though, that they interviewed, I'm sure you caught the kid. I don't know what your show is like, but there's like CNN's interviewing like a 10-year-old. Like, yes. What do you think about the moon? What are you excited about? He's like, because we're going to the effing moon. Like,
he's giggling like a child.
That's America.
If you're not proud of your...
That's America, is sending a black female to the moon. You don't love your country? You don't love your trans country?
Country, then there's nothing to conserve.
That's right.
Seems like a basic statement.
That's right.
And if you don't believe that better days are possible, then you deny yourself any kind of agency to be a part of anything constructive.
That's like I said with the young people. The people who believe it are going to be the bosses of the people who don't.
That's right. What does James Lindsay want to be remembered for?
Jeremy.
Here we go, fellas. We're doing it. We're going to finish it right now, okay? What does James Lindsay want to be remembered for? Okay?
I thought about this because I saw you ask Seth Dillon. Of course, Seth had a really good answer. And I watched the clip and I thought, how strange.
So mind you, James Lindsay had time to think about this, okay? So lazy he is.
Because the whole concept struck me as weird. I was like, I other than by my like family, I don't want to be remembered.
Interesting. I don't want to be remembered. You're in the public eye. His family, he never talks about his family. He's completely alone all the time, every day. And that's the only way you can come, he's answering how a homeless person would answer this question. I don't want to be remembered.
And then I started thinking about how really weird that is. Like, is this nihilism? I need to go read Nietzsche. What's happening? It's like, because I don't actually care what I'm remembered for. I don't have this drive of infinity or eternity at all. But then I started thinking, and it struck.
Here, let me try. If I was asked, what do I want to be remembered for? I guess I would say an uplifting voice for people that were not in a very good mood. And hopefully I could, give them a couple of hours of snapping out of whatever mindset they were in or circumstances they can't control, make them laugh and think a little bit. I mean, that's just off the cuff. He had nothing. He's in the public eye.
Me. When I was in college, a lot of people don't know this about me. I joined a fraternity, one of the social Greek organizations, and I was the chaplain.
He was the chaplain of, is that an Orthodox Greek fraternity? A chaplain of a Greek fraternity. So he was in a religious position of a fraternity in college? How is there a new lore drop on James Lindsay? New GM $5. If hating America and hating the moose is where the horseshoe touches, then your opinion on America is the moose. Yeah. Well, that's the one unifier in our political system. Slosher, $10. Thank you so much. James Lindsay got to the right 5 minutes ago, and now he thinks he can gatekeep who's on the right. Right. It's not Orthodox or actually Greek. What's a chaplain? What's the function of a chaplain? Aramaic discourse. Remember for 6 months. Thank you. Hey, Ardy, I'm pigeonholing you into non-violently restarting the stream. Thanks. I would never violently restart the stream. What's a chaplain? Is he in a position? What is his role as a chaplain?
Which is,
you were the chaplain
for 3 years, right? So I was only in college for 4 years. So there's my first year before I could be like an off.
See, this is what James Lindsay does. This is confusing. So they definitely made him do gay stuff in college. The only meaning of chaplain I know is a priest. I thought it was a religious title who officiates for a specific institution like a military chaplain. I thought it had a religious connotation to it.
Officer, and then I was a chaplain for the rest of the time. And so I was the chaplain. And among other things, the chaplain is in charge of the fraternity ritual rites or whatever, the initiations. And so I felt it was my responsibility to be vastly steeped in this literature.
I'm sorry. Did we just follow that? Was that inconsistent or am I going crazy? See your site, $5. Thank you so much. My employment status has granted me the honor of more overtime, so I therefore asked to restart the stream. Peacefully and patriotically restart the stream. But, so wait, they wanted him to join, then he had to learn about it, is the sequence of events we're supposed to believe right now. Before him knowing anything, they just wanted him to be in charge, and then he had to read up on it, is what it sounds like.
So I felt it was my responsibility to be vastly steeped in this literature for the fraternity. And the fraternity was actually founded to be whatever, the initiations. And so I felt it was my responsibility to be vastly steeped in this literature.
Wouldn't you already be steeped in the literature if they're going to give you that title?
For the fraternity. And the fraternity was actually founded by Baptist ministers. So there was a lot of Bible in it. And so I actually...
Were you a believer at the time?
Yeah, but in that kind of generic American way that wasn't denomination. I didn't go to...
Yeah, aren't you guys proud to be American? You know that generic American way you believe in Christ? Don't you want to conserve that? You know, that classic generic American way that you half-heartedly venerate Christ? You know, American.
church. My roommate was the son of a Presbyterian minister. We did Bible studies kind of regularly. I would have said generally yes, but it wasn't like I was like practicing properly. This is that ambiguous American yes of the
to be American.
1990s,
You want
I
to
guess.
conserve that?
But anyway, I mean, this is where I learned about the parable of the talents. It was actually part of the thing. But there's this line that I took from that, and I've thought about it. I bring up the college thing because I would have been 18, 19 years old that I came into contact with this idea. Obviously, I hadn't read the Bible or anything serious at 18 years old yet. And so there's this line, and it turns out it's from the book of James, which is arguably my favorite book of the Bible, probably now, at least this chapter 4, and it's maybe the 12th or 14th verse or something, I don't recall. But it's, what are you? You are but a mist seen for a while and then dispersing. And I see myself, I think it's always resonated with me, like this memento mori. Like, remember, you will die. You are but a mist that's
Memento Mori. Who's that guy?
seen for a while and then dispersing. But there's a gift to the dispersing. There's a gift to not having to worry about eternity on my terms. So I guess I had internalized this pretty deeply, because when I watched you ask Seth that question, and Seth said, you know, was very eloquently wanting to be known for being willing to stay. I mean, of course, he said his faith, echoing Charlie Kirk.
So this has to be all prepared right now. He clearly premeditated this response.
His famous remark, but he also more specifically said being willing to lose everything to stand up for what's true and right. And I watched this, and of course, Seth is so inspiring and just amazing in all ways. He's a great friend. But I watched this and I thought, I am weird. I'm real weird, because I don't want to be remembered. And then I went and checked myself, as a grown man does. I went to my wife. I was like, this is my thought. I don't want to be remembered. She's like, I don't either. And I was like,
Just neither of them want to be remembered. You don't even take a moment to go like, well, what does that mean? Actually, what am I leaving behind? I mean, his wife as a kid. Yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't want to be remembered. Odd. Sounds void of... Sounds very atheist. Doesn't it? That's like a very strictly atheist way to feel.
like, okay, I'm with my people. And so, yeah, there's a gift to not being like marked against eternity. And it's kind of cool that it's there as a exhortation in James. Of course, James also ends, that James 4 ends in the 17th verse, which is the one that I think I quote the most often in the world. And it is my favorite Bible verses.
Which is, hold on. Drama Ghost, $5, thank you. What do you throw JD Vance if he is drowning in a vat of raw sewage? What do I throw him? How did we get in such a predicament? I don't know what. Thank you. Arden Party, $2, thank you. I've worked as a chaplain administratively. Okay, so it's right, but like they were like, you're the chaplain, and then he was like, I really need to study because I was selected for this. That just doesn't make any sense, which is not surprising.
Which resonates with what Seth said, which is, for him who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, it is sin. And so that's where he's going with that particular explanation. Your life is, we're just transitory, man. It's like,
yeah, man,
super Gen X answer.
It really talks to that.
I don't particularly want to be remembered. If you remember me, cool. You'll die too, and then it'll go away. It's okay.
To the extent that you have quoted more scripture than anybody else who's been on the show, and we've had Johnny Arnavantis on the show, like there's been some scripture quoted, and that you were a chaplain in your fraternity, that you have a favorite book of the Bible and a favorite chapter of that book and a favorite verse of that chapter, and that your answer to how you'd like to be remembered comes from the same chapter of the same book. What stands between you and faith today?
Nothing between me and faith, between me and believing literally.
What stands between you?
Very quick, this is really important. I did not increase the size through AI of Jeremy's head. It is the same sized head the entire time.
And faith today?
Nothing.
One more time, that's not a toupee. That's his real hair. And if you try to make AI put a toupee on him, it then looks like the AI toupee is his real hair and his existing hair is a toupee. Trust me.
Between me and faith, between me and believing literally in one of the religions of the world, not believing or knowing whether or not they're literally true. To be a Christian means
which even for our right-wing atheists, right? It's very similar to I literally believe in it, which the only thing you can do, I know, Fist. I haven't told Fist this. It's still in my head. Privately, he was like, I don't want to overstep my bounds, but you really should go to liturgy. And I know. I know, but it's spooky and scary and weird. What really helps me is the fellow Bible study in the background, and praying for each other is a good start for me to not feel like an alien in a church. So that's a good start.
Resurrection, literally. I don't. Therefore, I'm not a Christian, and it would be disingenuous to claim otherwise. I do find a lot of resonance with kind of the way that Jews believe, now that I've learned quite a bit more. But man, maybe I'm just not made for it. Maybe I'm just a little bit too much of the world. I mean, it's a joke, it's literally.
Does that mean something that I don't know about? Maybe I'm just too much of the world? The fuck does that even mean?
Really a joke. You go to a rabbi and you say, Rabbi, I'm thinking about becoming a Jew. And he says, it's not for you. And you're like, no, I really think it is. It isn't, and so I don't.
Did that happen? Did that happen, James?
I don't want to keep their mitzvot. I don't want to do it. 630, like some of them.
We need a Goy. You are, exactly. If he talked to a rabbi and was like, hey, I'm thinking about converting to Moodyism, he's like, you are very well utilized as a peripheral character.
Like, I don't have any interest in murdering people, or even like, I get it even with hunting, right? You hunt for food, you hunt for sport, but you don't murder. You don't just kill to kill. Like, that's psychotic, right? So there's some of them, but like, I'm not going to stop eating oysters or whatever and think that this somehow brings the light of God into the world. No shade, but I'm just not going to do it. And so nothing, actually. I would say actually not the crutch, but the scaffolding that got me through the challenges of adversity and ostracization over the last 18 to 24 months has actually been faith, that believing that doing the right thing matters. That
we've covered this. The Moos reached out to him and then it gave him protection. That's what happened.
And that it isn't going to turn out necessarily the way that you think, but it's not your will that matters in how things turn out. And like just surrendering to that, but also that it being a confidence in that which is unseen.
James Lindsay doesn't surrender to a fucking thing. Okay. And I mean, this is the difficult thing for an atheist, is to submit to something that I can't, experience materially. To like, how do I submit to that? Right. Very huge hurdle for the atheist. And if or once I crack it, I will be very useful. But I'm still pretty useful right now. Blue Lick, $5. Thank you. Anyone else noticing he refuses to refer to Christ by name? Feels like it, doesn't it? Almost like all of his moos who call it. Yeah, the name that shall not be named. We've on Ardy and Fist will show videos where the moos call him JC. They don't actually want to say his name. Or Jesus of Nazareth. They don't say Christ. Ooh, Blue Lick. Very, very. Evidence supports what you're saying. Isaac, $2. Boring is so boring. I hate this with all my blood. I know. I'm a nightmare. I just love to torture you. I don't know what's wrong with me. We're almost done, and then I can set you all free. Thank you, fellas.
The unseen, the unknowing, the not knowing, the agnostic part of it is actually crucial to the way that I conceive of faith. But this is why I'm
the
fluid.
Substance of things hoped for, things not yet seen.
That's right. This is why I'm fluid enough to say that I'm confident to say I can have faith in.
He's fluid enough. Yeah, this is mooey gender stuff, fellas.
Liberty, that we keep covenant with liberty and have its blessings bestowed upon us as the other side of that covenant in the same way. But I don't have like a blasphemy here. Like, I have a t-shirt that says liberty first. I did a whole campaign of liberty first. And these kind of radical religious people online that aren't normal religious people were like really mad at me. They're like, no, God first. And I'm like, I'm having one of these moments with this. But yeah, nothing stands between me and faith. The question is what the faith is in. The faith is.
You can't be like an atheist or non-denominational agnostic and ever try to pull rank on people that are firm believers. I just, discernment is speak confidently about that which you know, I think.
Way more abstruse and vague in general. It's not specific, and it's certainly not for good or for ill, for, whatever. It's not in the Christian claim.
Yeah. Liberty is very important. And even as a Christian concept, it's for freedom.
Liberty to do what, dude? Oh, the word liberty is getting grosser and grosser as time goes on. The liberalism is being siphoned out of my body. Leningrad, $10. Thank you so much. Told you before, submission sounds scary, but means you do what you need to do in order to have a relationship with someone. Christ. I know. And then I have to undo my conception of submission. I know, but you know, there are people that used to believe, fell out of faith, and atheists in my audience. So I find it very useful to not give James Lindsay ownership of that. Like, no, that's when you're not James Lindsay and you're not lying and you're being honest. I understand the hesitancy, which is why I don't fucking speak on it. I'm not in a fucking position of authority on it. You know, and then when people say, pray for me and stuff, it's like I'm still getting used to it not feeling condescending when someone prays for me, right? That's felt condescending my entire life. And in the last 6 months, it hasn't felt condescending. You have to realize a lot of atheists being open up to this with people that actually have a sense of humor, which aren't constantly nagging you. It's a very new thing for a good amount of us. It's very new.
Christ has made us free.
Well, I mean, the whole point, and this is kind of the American thing, is both for Jews and for Christians, is the individual has the choice to accept, to keep the commandments, or to therefore be righteous, or to accept grace at the cross. But it's an individual choice. It's not a compulsion of the state. It's not a compulsion of the community. Even it's an individual choice. And actually, what makes righteousness work is that you've chosen to do it. Therefore, you grow into it. You grow into responsibility. You grow into righteousness. How? By trying to do it. By being the thing, you become the thing that you're being. And so,
by being the thing, you become the thing that you're being. How am I supposed to make fun of him? I couldn't make fun of him that well if I listened to him say it directly.
that's why I'm kind of so central on this idea of liberty first, so that I have the liberty to try to be righteous. And no, I'm sorry, it's not on my own terms. There are terms bigger than me. I don't know what to name them.
Less than 2
but
minutes.
There are terms bigger than I am. And what I read in the Bible, whether Hebrew or New Testament, is a heck of a lot of really good insight into what that is. Some very solid stuff. So I take the Bible very seriously. So I quote it, I talk about it, I reference it, I make it a part of my life as a regular occurrence. Like, I watch your show, and the next thing you know, I'm thinking, why do I believe this crazy thing that I thought? And the answer turns out to be, oh yeah, well, from college, one of my favorite scriptural references was effectively memento mori. You're nothing, you're going to disperse, and that's okay.
Who is memento mori? Who the fuck I know Tuesdays with Maury. Who the hell is memento mori?
Hey, don't sweat it.
Well, thanks for being honest about that. Faith questions are the hardest questions in the age of the internet. We can even fight about politics with so much more ease than we can even have the simplest conversations about faith.
Look at the size of his forehead. From now on, when you look at Jeremy Boring, try to ignore the size of his forehead.
And kind of in my new adventure that I'm on here, I want to be able to have those sorts of conversations in good faith with people because there are so few places where you can. James Lindsay, thank you.
For the rest of your life, do not think that James Lindsay is wearing a toupee. I can't see where the hairline starts. Oh, we did it. Thank you so much for hanging in there, fellas. This is a passion project after all. Isaac, $10. Thank you so much. I never in my life thought that James was going to go this far. None of us did, okay? And I've been there from this transition from the beginning. I feel a responsibility. It's sunk cost fallacy. Who am I kidding? What am I doing? Something important? I have to. Morbid curiosity, because I hate doing this, right? I still remember the day he X'd the tweet. I could not even think we would be here dying to see this lolcow go even lower. We must save the white race. I know. He's showing no signs of letting off the gas. Ancient Hybrid, $2 in a non-condescending way. God bless you, Ardy. See, you need to understand, though. I've seen, and a lot of other atheists have seen, evangelicals and charismatic Christians that I'm learning about, and being able to decipher between the different types of religious people I trust, I guess, right? Because I'm not just trusting in God, I'm trusting in the community of followers of God. And so that's a part of the process too. Is not feeling like an alien before I go is very important for me. Dillweed, $10. Thank you so much. To make the church easier, find a Greek friend. That's what I'll do. I'll just find a friend. That's what I'll do. To find a Greek friend to talk shit about their neighbors from the Balkans, and they'll treat you like an honorary Greek. It's like 20 minutes away, a Greek Orthodox church. And they have like Greek festivals and stuff like that. And apparently they're ball busty, which jives well with me. I just don't have good experiences of being in a church. Okay. And it's been a long time. And anyway, that's not why I brought you here. Fellas, thank you so much. Yeah, see, like right here. Evangelicals going to be atheists for a long time. Exactly. So my function right now is to demystify believing. If someone's like, I don't believe, and it's like, why? Because of that bad experience that you had. Well, then there's a bunch of fellas here that believe, that are very chill. Yeah, Arden Party. I have no issue feeling like an outsider. I was the nerd goth weirdo in high school. That is shocking, Arden. I can't believe that. I don't know. I used to be social before I knew a lot of things. Go with a friend. What friend? Go with a family member. What family member? Your boy's riding solo. Okay. I nuked the friend group June 2nd of 2020 amidst the George Floyd stuff. Nuked them. Had to. Couldn't live in a reality where people weren't sharing the reality that I was living in. Family members, well, we just don't get along very well. So let me send you to a man with a family, fellas, by the name of Rob Knorr, okay? The man's streaming right now, and I'm not supporting a family with this. He's supporting a family with what he's doing. He is not a disciple of Andrew Wilson, but Andrew Wilson really put his name on the line for Rob Knorr. So good man, fellas. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for keeping it in the pants and not banging. Okay. Ardy, I'll send you Rob's beard. Yeah, I wasn't blessed with hair there. If I could just take the asshole, if I could just take the hair off my asshole and put it on my face, it'd be a lot easier. Like there's areas of my, you know what? I should stop talking. Go enjoy Rob Knorr, fellas. Have a good night.